Hello, everybody. Welcome back to True Crimes of Scientology with Nora Ames. That's me, Nora Ames. I'm your host. Today we have the first episode of what I'm calling Scientology Casualties, which ties in, of course, shameless self-promotion with the blog I started for you guys to list your stories there. I will list this video there and on the Substacks when we're done. But we have a very, very special guest here today to kick off episode 1. You may have seen her interview with Alex, apostate Alex, of course, over there across the pond on his channel, or her article in The Sun. Over there, a very prominent UK publication known for its scandalous angle. But also, I love that they don't hold back in the article. You know, they have their angle. They do definitely call out Scientology in a different way than the Daily Mail did in Jamie's article that just came out. So, you know, it's a little compare and contrast, but they did a good job in detailing some of the more harrowing parts of Danielle's story. But I'm going to bring her on here. We're going to talk about, you know, the one-on-one experience that she had as a child with Lafayette Ronald. And yeah, we're just going to dive in. If you guys have questions for me or for Danielle, please, 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 I beg of you, please put question or comment so that I can pull those up at the end of the interview. And then additionally, please like this, like me, like the stream, and subscribe. That really, really helps the algorithm. But without further ado, ladies and germs, here is Danielle Chamberlin. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here, Danielle, and for coming on all the way across the pond there.
Hi.
Hi. We just met. Guys, we just met. We're best friends already. We just met. For, you know, virtually here a moment ago. But let's start. Well, we could start at the end. No, let's start at the beginning. So in the article, they talk a little bit about that. So I just want to clarify a couple points. Was your mom already, your parents, were they already practicing Scientologists when you were born, or did they get into it as you were a bit older?
Okay, so when I was a bit older, so they first got involved when I was about 6 years old, so about 1967.
Oh, wow. Okay, so right at the, and this was in which country?
In South Africa.
In South Africa. Okay, so that was like around the time that he had just gone to Rhodesia and tried to take over.
I was born, that's it. I was born in Rhodesia, and then now Zimbabwe.
Or Zimbabwe, yeah. We cut guys. I'm going to apologize at the front here for whatever reason, probably because I'm in the garage and my wife is upstairs teleconferencing. We are having all kinds of fun connection things, but we'll work through it. So you were born in Rhodesia, then Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. And
yes.
So they actually got in basically there in Rhodesia, or when it moved to like Durban and things like that?
No, when it went to Johannesburg, when it moved to Johannesburg.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Joburg org. My mother got involved through a mission,
and
but she first heard about it through my father, who, unbeknownst to us, had been was a spy effectively and had been planted in Scientology to work for the mental health organization for South Africa.
Wow! So your dad was sent in by a government office in South Africa to figure out what's the what with this Lafayette Ronald character and these wackadoo people that are trying to say they have the cure. Now, don't forget, guys, that at this time, Dianetics was still the biggest thing that Scientology was doing, right? So they're claiming all around the world to have the cure for mental illness. It cures all of man's mental and physical ills, right? So, of course, the government's like, what is that? Right? That's great. So then your dad basically got converted from being a spy? No. He was like, this guy's nuts.
Yeah.
But good for him.
But he recruited my mother through the mission, if you like. The mission holders were like friends, okay? They were a very wealthy Jewish couple who were giving a lot to the organization and stayed loyal till the end. and they ran a mission, a very successful mission in Johannesburg, and my mother was introduced to them by my father. I mean, I think it suited him and it suited the organization he was working for that my mother was a Scientologist, and my mother didn't know, right?
So
she never.
This was just part of the op. This was him like
Uh-huh.
improving his cover. Like, okay,
Yes,
I'm getting my whole family in. Look at this. This is what Scientologists do.
exactly,
I'm doing it. Wow.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. He didn't have many morals when it came to his kids, to be honest. I mean, yeah.
So your dad, okay, we're going to have a lot of similarities in our backstory here. So your dad basically working as a spy was like, well, my cover's got to work. So here comes my wife. Here comes my children's. How many kids did your parents have at this point?
3.
Three.
So
Were you the youngest? Where were you in that 3?
at this stage, I was the eldest.
Okay.
At this stage, I was the eldest. Yeah.
So
years later, I
6,
found out.
and then how old were your siblings?
So I was 6, my sister was 4, and my brother was 1.
Wow. And then later your mom had more kids?
Yes. There's another story which kind of is much, much later down the line, but it turned out that my father, he was a very sort of handsome Frenchman who loved the ladies. And I found out when my girls were 3 years old, and they're now 31, that he had children in France we didn't know anything about. So we found some sisters in France who
he had a whole other family there?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, they were born before us.
Wild. So you were like his second family.
Yeah.
And then he became like, he was already being a spy before he got hired as the government as a spy. Like, wow. Yeah, exactly. So he was good at this. He was good at the lying and the espionage, clearly.
Yeah. I mean, I really remember. Oh, it's frozen.
Yep. I can
hear. I remember.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I remember sitting in him sitting at the dining room table and us kids being shushed out the room because he was accepting, there was some money being changed hands across the table. There were these people coming for meetings and so all. And he was a photographer and he always had a dark room and we were never allowed to go in the dark room apparently.
Oh, right.
But I did sneak in one day and I found he had a little pistol, a little miniature pistol, which he always used to carry in his suit when he went out.
Wow.
He had a little camera, a miniature camera. And this is in the 60s, so it's really like James Bond,
Totally.
And he used to go out dressed up in posh suit and he would drink half a cup of oil before he went out. And I found out later that the reason for that is so that he wouldn't get drunk if he was given some alcohol.
There you go. Okay, there you go, kids. New hot tip: drink a half cup of oil before you party. Apparently, it's probably like castor oil or something, right?
Yeah,
something really disgusting.
Yeah. And don't do the pure, drink the oil.
Yeah, drink the oil. Forget the sauna. Okay, so here you are, 6 years old. Your mom is now starting in, and does she like instantly become a believer, or is she like frog in the pot? Okay,
no, straight away she was really into it. And in those days, I mean, the kids we went to during the at weekends. We were taken to the orgs and we were just playing around. And then I reckon that because the kids were just a pain in the ass, they used to put them on course.
Yes.
Do your TRs, do your training routines. This will keep the kids quiet. Yeah.
Just because let's dive into that for a little bit. So as a small child, when you are put into this very structured militaristic style indoctrination where you have a roll call and then you're given a speech and you're doing repetitive talk back called Chinese school where you're repeating these doctrines to put them in your mind, and you're forced as a small child, okay, to sit in usually a very uncomfortable chair at a desk that's too big for you. Everything is not your size, right? It's not meant for children. And then you're put in these scenarios where someone is sitting across from you, or just mention the training routines, where another child or sometimes adult is sat across from you to stare at you for an hour straight, to yell at you disgusting, horrific, embarrassing, frightening, sexual things for hours, right? And then you're made to do the same thing to another person, right? What was the first time as a child that you were made to do that type of indoctrination?
At age 6.
At age 6. And how
Yeah.
old was the person sitting across from you? Was it another child or an adult?
No, adults.
Adults. Okay, so you're saying things that a 6-year-old could come up with that is goofy and trying to make this person react, right?
Yeah.
And no, take your time. And are the
Sorry,
adults?
it says my battery's running low, and it was. I just
no.
had to turn it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. And would the adults say child appropriate things to you, or was it whatever came to their mind?
I don't actually remember at age 6. That came later when I was on the Apollo, and then it was really inappropriate. So, but at age 6, I actually remember the org being a bit fun at the time, but then it wasn't fun being forced to do TRs, training routines. We had to do them even if we didn't want to do them.
Right.
And the best fun bit for me, I think at 6, I remember playing with plasticine, because we had to do demos.
Right. So that's clay for all the other people. You have to mold things out of clay to demonstrate these highfalutin, ridiculous concepts that you're being indoctrinated with. So you're basically doing an art presentation of this concept, whatever it is that you're being made to, and you have to show your understanding by the validity of your art.
That's it. That's right.
It's so ridiculous. It's so. What's sad about it is that putting things in physical form, right? Like art in general, painting, sculpting, all these things, that does have innately a very healing property to it, right?
Yeah.
To express your emotions and other things. But to be forced to take a medium like that and then to create something that is so ridiculous and so wrong, and then make yourself understand that, like, how did that feel doing that in those clay structures to you?
Well, as a kid, you're immediately fighting back because you don't want it. And so, of course, they had kids who were always misbehaving because they just, I mean, the adults literally leave the kids to just do what they wanted initially. When the org moved to another one, but the early days, it was on a place called Hancock Street, and it was near a railway line. And I remember the kids just running amok, just doing what they wanted to do while the adults were in lectures or whatever. And so, they had to do something, I guess, to kind of corral these guys. So,
okay, so now it's 1967. Your mom is like 10 toes deep. She's in it to win it. She loves the whole thing. She wants to go up the whole bridge. Tell me how you go from South Africa to being on how old were you when you got onto the actual physical boat, the ship, as it was colloquially known? There was 3 ships, but you ended up on the actual Apollo with Lafayette Ronald and that crew there, correct?
I did, but there was a really kind of formative thing that happened from an abusive point of view before then. So my mother and father split up when she discovered that my father was a spy.
Wow. So she outed him and divorced him.
Yeah. Well, they weren't officially married. She actually, long story, another story for another day about him, because he was still legally married to a woman in France who wouldn't give him a divorce. She was a staunch Catholic, and she moved a man to live in with her who took on my father's persona and name because she was so ashamed. And anyway, another story. But
this is incredible. I love everything about this. Okay, so your mom finds out that your dad's a spy. She's so dedicated to Scientology and Lafayette Ronald. She leaves him. Does he ever attempt to be like, listen, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I brought you into this. This was part of my cover, but like, these people are nuts. Like, we need to go. Did that happen? Or was it just like, he was like, okay, bye?
I don't think so. There was a lot of arguing. Not something I remember. I don't know what they argued about, but it was stand up, I mean, my mother was usually a very gentle, loving person, but they did have these stand up rows. It could be the French in him. I don't know. But I remember once they were slapping each other across the face and I tried to intervene to stop them. Not the first time, I tried to stop a flight. I tried to stop one on the Apollo as well, but another story. But yes.
So let me ask you a question. So your dad is French. Is your mom Rhodesian? Or
she was actually born in South Africa, because another story. But she could have been born in Rhodesia, but she was taken down to Johannesburg for my grandmother to have the baby. And then there was a bit of a shotgun wedding happened when she got back. So I think, or just before. So we suspect that my grandmother.
I can still see you. Please pardon the technical difficulties here. 1 second, guys. Oh, let's see where. Danielle will be back here in a second. 1 sec. It's just me now. I'll wait for Danielle to get back because this story is way too interesting to not. So let me make sure she can get back in here. There we go. I'm just emailing back to her here. And we'll see what's happening. I don't know her device. Get Bill Gates here. Oh, here she is. Hold, everybody. All right, Danielle, 1 second. Let me pull you up here. We're doing it live, guys. We're doing it live. Oh, she left again. Where'd she go? There you are. Okay, 1 second, Danielle. Let me get you in here. There we go. There she is, everybody. All right.
I'm going to do it on my phone. My computer just is dead. Completely dead.
Okay, well, that's all
right.
right.
Don't know what's wrong.
That's all right. We can hear you. We can see you. We're back. We're back, Danielle.
Okay, cool. Okay. So where was I?
So your mom was basically from Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, but was born in Joburg. And then your grandma had like a very like, okay, we're married now. The baby is just magic kind of like situation. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. So she was brought up in Rhodesia and I was born in Rhodesia. My sister was born in Rhodesia. And then when my sister was probably 1.5, we moved to South Africa, and then my brother was born down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what happens after your mom and dad split up? Where do you guys go? Do you stay there or what?
So we then go, my sister and I are sent to boarding school, so for a year, and my mother keeps my brother, but we go and stay at some friends' house up in Rhodesia, and then my mother comes down to Johannesburg to make some money, and she gets a job, and she happens to find a job working as a secretary for a public Scientologist with a lot of money.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's the world of Scientology, guys. It's this big and you are a part of it. When you're really a part of it, you're working for a Scientologist, your spouse is a Scientologist, all your friends are Scientologists, you go to the Scientology school, maybe you rent your home from a Scientologist. I mean, it's like, it's just one stoppy shoppy for the whole thing. Okay, then what happens?
And then a year after we're in boarding school, they turn up with what we call a bucky, which I think you call a pickup. And in the back was some sleeping bags. And my mother said, this is your new father. We'd never met him before. And we're moving to his farm about 30 miles outside Johannesburg. I know. This wild.
Is exactly what my grandmother did after my grandfather, he passed of a sudden heart attack, right? And she had 4 children. And then 2 weeks after my grandpa passed, she takes her 4 children. This is 1958. She takes her 4 kids out to dinner and they beeline towards a table with a man sitting at the table that they've never seen, and 2 teens that they've also never met. And they all sit down, and all of the kids, all 6 kids, are like, "What is this?" And then she says,
Wow.
"Kids, meet your new father." And his daughters are like, "I'm sorry, what's happening?" Right? Like, that was that.
Yeah, and there's an old adage in Scientology: "Make it go right," and
Yes.
yeah, you just
But
have
you
to
also,
make it
I
go
will
right.
give it up for your mom, because we're talking about the 60s, where, as a single woman, I don't know how it was in South Africa and Rhodesia at the time, but in America, women didn't have the right to have a bank account or a credit card or own property. So women had to get coupled up with a man in order to survive, especially to feed and clothe your children. So this wasn't just like, okay, Scientology, make it go right. This is also, I will give like one little petal of a flower to your mother for this, to be like, okay, my kids need shelter and food. I don't know how this man turned out for you. We're going to find out. But I think that was part of it. You know what I mean? Like, just survival, true survival
Yeah,
as a woman at that time, which is crazy
yeah.
that's what
Uh,
it had to be. But yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
to give kudos to her, she had been the main breadwinner in the relationship with my father.
Wow.
He never gave any money to the kids. He didn't support them, and she was a journalist and was working every day.
Wow.
And so yeah, so we had a nanny look after us. Like in South Africa, you had all the white fit people had an African nanny back in the day.
So you spoke Zulu as a child then?
I didn't. My mother spoke
Oh,
Swahili. Yeah, yeah. I
okay.
spoke Afrikaans, but not. But we learnt Afrikaans in school back then. I think later on, then Zulu came on the curriculum, but it certainly wasn't in a white school curriculum. No way,
But you
back in
didn't, but
those
your
days.
nanny just spoke Afrikaans to you, or English?
English.
Interesting.
Yeah, she spoke English. But then one day, and my mother would call out to her, and then my mother and father would get in the car and they'd go to work, whatever my dad's work was, we never really knew. And then one day she called out and went to work, and then she phoned the house at about 11 o'clock in the morning, only to hear from me that the nanny hadn't turned up. So she'd done a runner, as we say, and she'd left, and so my mother had raced back to the kids, found us on the doorstep eating carrots covered in flour.
We're like, this
Oh
sounds like a
God.
treat.
Yeah. Well, we had no money, honestly. So I think we were hungry, and there wasn't anything to eat. It was quite dire. It wasn't fun. So I understand why she chose somebody who had money and could support the family,
Sure.
but she was still absent. So when we're on the farm, my sister and brother and I were sexually abused. Oh, I don't know if you can say that. Sorry, but
No,
we
you
were
can. Go ahead. It's
SA'd.
okay.
Oh, you can. Okay, by our stepbrothers. So and you know what it's like. It's always your fault in Scientology. You pulled
Of
it in,
course.
and you have to make amends. And I was always in trouble with him. He gave, as punishment, I had to polish a brass lamp, and it wasn't polished to his satisfaction. So I was assigned a condition of liability, and I had to work my way back into the group. And so while they were watching movies, reel to reel movies in the sitting room, I was out cleaning horse shit up off the fields, in
And
the
how old were
blistering
you
sun.
then?
10, 9 or 10, 9, yeah.
Yeah. And this is something that you have to understand, guys, just to like put it in context. There is nothing that happens to you. Okay, you get robbed at gunpoint. Someone runs a red light and smashes into you in your car. Anything that happens to you ultimately gets reversi unoed onto you. Right? It's your fault. You did what they call pulling it in. Something is wrong with you that became a magnet for this bad deed to happen
Yeah.
to you. So even someone being a pedophile, okay, or just being a sexual abuser of younger children, right? They are themselves a child and they're doing that. I don't know how old your stepbrothers were. Were they also children, or?
14, 15, and
Okay.
17, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So teens
Yeah.
doing horrific things to younger children, right?
Yeah.
Now, that person will be addressed, right? The criminal themselves gets addressed, but the criminal is treated different than the victim. The criminal is like, okay, write down your crimes, and now all is good.
Yeah.
All is forgiven. The person who basically, because they have something so fucked up, they push this fucked upness onto the criminal, which then activated their crime. You now have to take responsibility for that person doing that to you and what you are and what you did to make them do that.
Yeah.
It is beyond fucked up. It is, and especially when it comes to a child having anything done to them, whether it's sexual or not, it warps you from the very beginning of the development of your brain that you are inherently bad. Would you agree with that? Like, as a child, how did you feel about yourself?
Really low self-esteem. Could not speak out. It shuts you up. It silences you. So everything is internalized. Everything. So your trauma is internalized, and that means that you just you can't thrive. You're not happy.
Right.
And I was miserable as anything. And for some reason, I was picked on the most. I don't really know why. And my sister, we were very, very unhappy. And that lasted, they got married in a Scientology wedding and a sort of what we call in England a registry office. I don't know what they called it over there.
That we call it, like, you go down to the courthouse and you get married.
Get a license. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And so so they married and my mother got pregnant. And then one day she was heavily pregnant and he was a real narcissist, this guy, and she was completely besotted with him. She just worshipped the ground he trod on, really. Obviously to the detriment of the children, right? And also she's absent. So and she was also under the control of these boys. They were really nasty, and they had complete control of the household and their father and what have you. Anyway, so she's 6 months, nearly nigh on 6 months pregnant.
Wow.
And we're sitting around the dining room table one day on the farm. This was on a farm. I mean, this farm it could have been wonderful. It had everything you wanted. It had a lake, a swimming pool. The boys all had motorbikes. We had, just beautiful land. It was gorgeous. And it took you a day to walk around it. It was, they had horses, but we were so miserable, just because of what was going on in the house,
Right.
and being silenced and not seen. I mean, my sister was bitten by a snake on her ankle, and the nanny sucked the poison out of her ankle. And there were because mum and dad were not there, the mother and father were. And she had no way of getting us to a hospital. So that's what she did. And she saved my sister's life,
Yeah.
But anyway.
That's wild, though. And then when your parents came home, they were like, oh, good job. Good job.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, walk it off.
Yeah. And what did you do to pull that in? Just kind of.
What were you doing to that snake?
Yeah,
leave
exactly.
it alone.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, then, sitting around the dining room table and the boys are sniggering, right? There's like, something's up. So he takes my mother by the hand and says, I want to show you something. Remember, she's carrying his child, nearly 6 months now. And he takes her out to the back, and in her car, she had a Beetle, a VW Beetle. Sitting in the back of her car was one of her best friends, Jill Van Staden. Now, Jill was married to Joe Van Staden, and Jill, just coincidentally, used to be on the Apollo. She was an officer on the Apollo with Tom Hubbard. Yeah, this is just coincidence. And he got in beside her. He held Jill's hand, and he said to my mother, we're getting married. What are you going to do? Yeah.
So basically, this man whose biological sons are abusing you and your siblings has impregnated your mother. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this. Has impregnated your mother. She's about to give birth to his child.
Yes.
And he sits in her car.
Yes.
With his mistress.
Yes.
And says,
who's her friend?
Who's like her bestie, and is now saying to his wife,
yeah,
I'm marrying this woman. That was his way of saying, I want a divorce.
Yeah.
So then what happened to you guys?
No, then he said he also, such a nice guy,
sure.
offered to take the child. He said, we'll have the baby. She said, no, you won't.
Oh, well,
So
I'll take my kid, basically, but the rest of you go fuck off.
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Yeah. Nasty, nasty piece of work. Anyway, we then went, my mother, myself, my sister and brother went, and we were on her bed, and she was just obviously in complete shock.
Sure.
You know, and she said, well, what are we going to do? And she started tossing and turning around ideas. And so then she said, I know, we'll go to England and we'll join the Sea Org.
So her solution, okay, I'm just, again, she's 6 months pregnant, guys. She has 3 children aged 10, 8, and 4 at this point. Okay. 10, 8, and 4. And she's got one on the way. And she's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm signing that billion-year contract. We're going to go to jolly old England, which, by the way, at that time, guys, okay, this is, again, the 60s. To travel to England, like a plane, that's like a multi-plane ride because there was I don't think there was a direct flight. No.
No,
So
there wasn't. We had to go via Germany.
Right. So you go to Germany and then and this is like, guys, you have to remember, like, we're talking like the propeller planes. The jet engines were very new. They weren't like everywhere. This is like everyone's smoking on the plane. They're smoking 2 cigarettes at once. The stewardesses are smoking. It's just like, you have to pick. It's a different time, guys. It's a different time. So this woman and her 3 small children and her pregnant ass get on a plane and take you guys all the way to East Grinstead, Sussex, to that moldy dump there, which was not, it was in renovations at that time. It was not what you see in the pictures now with the grounds. It's all posh and a little castle and like all that shit. It was a fucking dump. Like, let's be honest. It was.
Well, okay, so we were collected from the airport by a guy called Bruce Glishico, and and in those days we didn't have what they call the M25, which is the motorway that runs all around London.
Oh,
so
okay.
You had to go through all these streets and stuff to get. But we didn't go to St Hill. We went to Stonelands, which is the manor house that all the Sea Org members lived in.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So Claire Headley lived there too. She talks about it.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
In its day, in its heyday, it would have been the most beautiful, beautiful building. It was very, very old.
Oh, sure.
And but honestly, we no carpets, very few curtains. We had what they call radiators that are filled with bricks, storage heaters that heat up, and then the bricks keep it warm.
Right.
It was freeze. I mean, the ice would form on the windows inside in winter. It was quite
If
something.
there was glass, I mean, like, let's be honest, this is beyond single pane. Like, we're so spoiled now in the year 2025. We have like double and triple pane glass. We have insulation. We have air conditioning. We have indoor heating and plumbing. And I'm sure when this place was built, probably in the 1700s, it was gorgeous in its inception. But now, a couple hundred years later, it's like, it's a shelter.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real kick in the nuts because there's another building that was a sister building to our building that was a beautiful hotel and restaurant, and it was only a couple of miles away. So you could see what its potential could have been,
Right.
And in fact, not that long ago, I got in touch with somebody who told me that it was him who purchased that building. And it
Wild.
was £26,000, this big old manor house. Yeah. And they sold it. When they eventually sold it, it sold for only £350,000, which was, yeah, it's crazy. And then it was now being turned into really luxury apartments where,
I'm sure.
Some of them are selling for $1 million just in one apartment. Yeah, it's crazy.
It would be wild for you guys who grew up there to go back because similarly, there's a building in Los Angeles, the Wilcox, that it was known as because it was on the corner of Wilcox and Selma. A complete cockroach infested, dilapidated, disgusting building. The plumbing was horrific. Like, if you didn't get a shower within the first 10 minutes of like people turning on the water, the hot water was gone. So you were going to have an ice cold shower. Like, I spent 5 years having mostly freezing cold showers in the winter, in the summer, whenever, right? No heat. We had the little like the windows that you could like close because it was like the little layers and then they would open. So you have to like dust those all the time.
It's got very, very sound has gone scratching. You sound like a chipmunk.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, you're a little scratchy. We'll just wait a second while it catches up. But yeah, I mean, it's like the conditions, they always buy these buildings that are awful. They never
Yeah.
buy a brand new construction, right? They're always buying something on the cheap. And now that building has been made into a very posh hotel in Los Angeles that people spend like $300-400 a night. And so they've been very kind to people who grew up there, who were even born in those whatever they're called now, hotel rooms. And just like, if people show up and they're like, hey, I was born in room 406. Do you mind if I just like, is anyone in there? Can I just like look? They'll let you go in
Yeah.
because they know the history of
Yeah.
their building. So it'd be interesting to
Yeah.
tour one of those units. Like, hey, this was my dorm with like 20 other girls. Can I check it?
Yeah. Yeah. I have seen when they come up for sale, I've sort of screenshotted the photos of the rooms, you know. It's quite interesting because there's a ballroom in the house, which would have been a beautiful building in its heyday with a massive fireplace and wooden paneling all around the room. You used to sleep with 30 people in a bunk, you know, you know what I mean? Not in, you know what I mean? 30 bunk beds in there. And then when the social services came around for the health and safety people to check on standards, we would all have this a big muster, and everybody would have to run and dismantle the beds and make sure that there were fewer beds in there than there were actually, you know.
Right. Because you
Yeah.
can't reveal that like 30 kids are sleeping in one room. That's
Adults.
that's not good. That's
Yeah.
not a good look.
Uh-uh.
We don't want people getting the wrong impression. Okay, so you're off to England.
God.
You're living in this now that you're living in these dorms, right, with other children. How often are you and your 3 siblings and your soon to be baby sibling, how often are you guys seeing your mom now?
Okay, so we arrived in June 73. And I went to the Apollo at the end of September, just before my birthday in October. So I wasn't there very long, but we used to have family time, and I think it was on once a month on a Sunday, and then on a Saturday we had what they call CSP, where we would do our cleaning. We had a white glove inspection of the rooms, literally. So the CEO of the org would come around with a white glove, and they would have to test for dust, and everything had to be in ship shape. And so, yeah, and if your stats were up, you used to get what they call a Liberty Day, so you could get a day off on a Saturday. We actually had it easier than it became after I left in 82, and after that, I left at just the right time, I think, because things got really bad. They got worse.
Yeah. So in
yeah.
73, how old are you then? Or is that when you're 10 still?
I'm 11, and I'm going to be turning 12 that October.
Okay. So
Yes.
at 11 and a half, you go from England to, where did you get on the boat? Where did you have to travel to get on the boat?
In Lisbon, in Portugal.
Lisbon. Did you fly accompanied? Did your mom come with you, or were you flying by yourself?
No. Are you kidding? No.
No, I knew the answer. I want the
Oh.
audience to understand that in 1973, you were put on a plane in London to go to Portugal, to Lisbon, okay? And then, or Spain, wherever Lisbon is. It's Portugal, right?
Portugal.
Okay. My geography came back to me there for a second. And who picked you up? Did you know who was picking you up, or just waiting for a sign? What was the thing?
I can't remember, but what I can only suppose happened, because this is what did happen, is they would give you a piece of paper with a contact phone number on it, and I would have been instructed to ring that phone number when I got to the airport. So in those days, I don't know if they still do it, the air hostesses at the time, or the cabin crew, would look after kids, you know, on the flight. So I was on my own on the flight, but my mother was not allowed to know where I was going. Because L. Ron Hubbard was on the ship, L. Con Hubbard, we were not allowed to know or to tell anybody where he was. So my mother did not know where I was, right? And any letters you wrote to home are redacted. Everything's read. They've got your passport as well. You can't leave, and you cannot tell any mention of Lafayette to anybody. Then you know it's blacked out. So she had no idea. And then from that moment on, I remember standing on the side of the ship looking up and at the port and just thinking how big this ship was, because I'm still a kid, and it's actually that big, it's 300 and something feet long, but it was and Elron Hubbard was on the ship, was looking down. He had his, this captain, all his photographs, and beside him, on each side of him, was a Commodore's messenger dressed in some kind of uniform.
Right.
And I was shitting myself, because you're told, this is why would you not want to go to flag to the ship? This is the best thing that's ever going to happen to you, the most prestigious thing you could ever do. Why would you want to leave? Because immediately I got on the ship, I wanted to go home.
Yeah, well, that's normal for an 11-year-old, right? To get somewhere completely unknown. You don't know anybody. Let's clarify. You're 11 and a half. You've flown to another continent. You have been picked up by a complete stranger who could be anybody. You just called a number. You don't know who you're calling. Someone at the other end of this telephone is like, so-and-so is going to be there in this amount of time. So you're just standing about in a foreign airport. You get picked up. You're driven. You don't know where you're going. They don't tell you. You're just like, you're supposed to do. And then as soon as you arrive, you're at a shore, you're at a dock. You're like, okay, what are we doing? You get onto this boat. You don't know anyone on this boat. Okay. And you're basically told, hooray, you're a chosen one. You're super special now. So you need to, be excited that you're on this ship, that no one. There's the master and commander, the head dude, the big honcho, right? Don't talk to him. Don't talk about him. Don't look at him unless looked at. Okay. And we're going to give you the most important job that you could possibly do. You've been chosen specifically for this very special job that is only you can do it, is so needed, so that Lafayette Ronald can continue creating the most important thing on planet Earth and this sector of the universe. Okay. So you're in a sci-fi novel at this point. What was your very special job that only you could fulfill the needs of at this time?
Well, I had to, can I just say that initially I'm lying sobbing on the bunk, right? And someone comes down to me, a lady called Liz, and she tries to persuade me to get off the bunk and to go do some what they call mess work, some physical work. They wanted me to sign in to become what they have something called the Deck Project Force at the time, called the DPF. And you join that and you do your orientation of the ship, and that's when you go and find out where things are. You have a checklist that you check off, and and that wasn't too bad, but I was really miserable because remember, this is on the heels of parents splitting up, boarding school, then abuse, and now this, and then being wrenched from my family just after my little baby brother was born. And it was just like, that's a lot, that's a hell of a lot to take on board emotionally. So I was already numb, and I just wanted to go home. All I wanted to do was leave. I had no interest whatsoever in becoming a Commodore's messenger. I couldn't give a shit. I just wanted to go home. And home is back to my mother,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had to paint, do this physical work. So I was sent to paint a cabin. And then they assigned me work in the galley, and I was working in the galley, washing dishes and serving food, getting into trouble because I didn't cook the eggs, but someone cooked the eggs and I served it to the captain.
What about the eggs? You didn't cook the eggs properly? Is that what happened?
There was a cockroach on the back of the egg. So
a cockroach.
Yeah.
Seems on brand for Scientology to have cockroaches at all of their locations. Yeah.
And I got into trouble for that, but I was always in trouble. So then they made me what they call a snipe steward, and the snipes were the engineers, and I loved them because they were pretty much, they're not really Scientologists, do you know what I mean? They were really mucky, funny jokes, really fun, just made me laugh, treated me like a normal human being. There wasn't any, it was quite good fun, and I really enjoyed that, but it didn't last, of course. Then they wanted me to go and work. I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it's the equivalent of the cadet or working for the Commodore's messengers. So you're ironing the Commodore's messengers uniforms.
Right. So,
Right?
so you're
Yes.
down in the bilges, the underbelly of the boat, the inside that's making the engine run and, you know, keeping all the plumbing going and things like this. And those guys, now, true story, that's where the engineers are. Is that down below, or is these the guys that are steering the boat? Which version?
Okay. No, I haven't hit the engine room yet. This is so they used to come up from the engine room. They had their own little special room where they used to eat.
Oh, they had
Right?
their own dining area for
Yeah, it's
the
called,
engineers, a separate dining area just for them.
yeah, it's called the mess hall. So, but they
Okay.
had just a small one just for them. So that was cool because, you know, they could just be themselves. And it was funny. It was great. It was good fun. Also, we used to have, I can't remember exactly what just say 30-second showers. I mean, they were, because the ship didn't have much water, you know, lots of people on it. We had to have really quick showers and then
I
turn
just
the
want to
water
make
off.
sure I heard you correctly. A 30-second shower.
Shower. Yeah, so you would turn the water on, wet yourself, turn it off, soap yourself, turn
Just
the
dance
water
in
off.
the water really quick and get out. That's less, guys, that's less than we had on the concentration camp. We got 3 whole minutes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been 60 seconds, I can't remember, but it was certainly quick,
Sure.
right? We didn't have a lot of time. There were lots of rules and regulations like that, you know, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
And then so then I was doing this work for the Commonwealth, and I hated this work. I hated it so much. At one point, I was put in the galley. So there were 2 restaurants. There was one where the officers ate, and where Mary Sue used to eat. And of course, Elcom Hubbard had his own place, right, separately.
Right.
But Mary Sue and the officers. But then there was another one called the Aft Lounge. And the
Okay. The aft lounge.
was
Mm-hmm.
where the staff ate.
Okay.
And just up from the staff lounge was a small little galley, a tiny galley, and I worked in there. So I'd wash the dishes and lay the tables, and they used to have what do you call them, jars of juice. They called bug juice. So you had to pour all the bug juice out on for lunch and dinner and breakfast. So you know,
What was in bug juice?
it's like a squash. We call it squash. Do you call it squash in America? I'm not sure. It's like you know, sweet liquid you put in the drink and then add water to it.
A sweet liquid you put in the drink? Like, it just sort of makes it sweeter or something? It's not like a tea, obviously. It's like I'll have to figure that out. I've never heard of bug juice. Now I don't worry. That's just my ADHD. It has nothing to do with anything. I'm like, bug juice? What is, I mean, we had panther piss, right? Which was water, lemon juice, cucumber, and salt, right? Which we called panther piss for some unknown reason. But like the lemon and the water and the cucumber all together, like formed electrolytes. It's actually kind of, and the salt activates it. So when it would be really hot, everyone would be like, we need some panther piss. Like, I don't know why we had to call it that. It's disgusting, but like that tracks. That you guys had bug juice, we had panther piss. So there we go. Like, let me ask you a question because we're on your phone. Is your Wi-Fi on, or is it just your phone signal? Okay, good. I'm just checking. The audio is cutting a little bit, but I think that's just
it's really scratchy, really scratchy.
yeah.
I don't know why. If you move your mouth further away from the
If
mic,
I
does
move
it
my
make any
mouth further
difference?
away, is that better? No.
Are other people hearing that? Are they saying in the comments?
No, well, yeah, it's cutting in and out on both of us, I think. Okay, so this is, somebody says in the US Navy, bug juice is an old school slang for the brightly colored, overly sweet drink mix, similar to Kool-Aid, often served in the ship's galley or mess decks. So it was a US Navy thing, which of course, Lafayette Ronald was like, this is our thing. It's bug juice, you know. Yeah. Thank you for that, Olson.
Okay, so where are we? So now remember that I'm 11. I've just turned 12. I'm menstruating every month. I have no money. I have left my glasses behind in England. Have you gone?
No, you're there. You're there. Don't worry. I see you. You're good.
And so I thought, what can I do to get offloaded off the ship? What can I do? So I thought I'll just be as naughty as I possibly can.
Okay. So you start acting up. You start like, okay, now I'm gonna I don't care anymore. Get me out of here. Right. So and let's be clear, what is naughty in Scientology?
What? Sorry?
What would be naughty? What is something that's naughty, right? When you're on this boat in the middle of the ocean with this insane man and his, child army of small children in go-go shorts running amok with older people who aren't looking after you. Let's be abundantly clear. Are any of the adults at any time caring for, looking after, or giving affection of any kind to the children on board who are serving Lafayette Ronald?
Yeah. Okay, so I would say the worst thing I did was I was sent to the ethics officer to do some backlog filing of a huge backlog of knowledge reports that came up to my waist. And instead of filing them, I thought, I'm absolutely not going to file all of these, and I shredded them all.
I lost you for a second there in the audio.
Nora, it's so bad that I can hardly hear you. I'm just wondering if we should go out and come back in again.
Yeah, why don't you leave? I'll send you a new link and we'll see if that will zhuzh it up here, okay? I'm going to send you a new one right now. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to try again here. We'll try again. Take 45. Good night. There we go. People really don't want this story to get out. Like, they don't want Danielle to tell this story. Like, this is wild. This is wild to me how much the audio is literally cutting out right now, guys. But it is. But thank you guys for hanging in here. I appreciate it. Danielle will be back here in a second. But so far, she's 11 and a half on the boat with Lafayette Ronald after her father and mother break up because her mom finds out that he's a spy for the government. They break up. She gets a husband or a man and then says he starts hooking up with her best friend while she's 6 months pregnant with his child after having been sexually abused by her stepbrothers. Her mom whisks her and her 3.5 siblings, we'll say half because, there's a little baby in there, 2.5 siblings, away to England. She is at the boarding school there. And then at 11 and a half is told you're chosen, gets flown solo from England to Portugal, to Lisbon, Portugal, where she calls a stranger to pick her up at an airport that she's never been at by herself. That stranger takes her to the dock where she enters a boat filled with strangers and Lafayette Ronald, where she is a child worker bringing food to people, and then gets promoted to the cadet organization, okay, for to get groomed essentially to be Lafayette Ronald's personal servant. That's where we're at in this insane story, guys. And this this book, which Danielle has finished reading. We're going to get into that on her take on this book. That's why this book is so important. I know I shamelessly promote Jamie's book. Just full disclosure, I don't get any money from that. Jamie doesn't pay me to do this. Okay. But this story is what is going to bring a tidal wave of more people. Now, Danielle is back. She's been speaking out for a few years now. Let me get her on the screen. We'll see if this is better here. There's Danielle. And she's told this story to the son. She's told the story to Alex. She's been speaking out for a few years now. So I just did a recap of where we were in the story here. Okay. So now you've been promoted to you're going to become one of Lafayette Ronald's personal servants in part of the messengers elite.
Yeah.
You're going to go from your little black boiler suit to go-go shorts. It's a very important promotion, everyone. Very important for a young lady. But you're not keen on this at this point. You're like, I don't know about that. So what happens now?
Okay, so I was in an unfortunate position to be on the ship when Ken Urquhart developed the Rehabilitation Project Force, approved by L. Ron Hubbard. And so that entailed wearing black boiler suit, black armbands, not being allowed to speak to another member of the crew unless they spoke to you first, running everywhere from A to B, not eating at the same time as the crew. So you would have to eat at the end if there was any food left.
Correct.
And I heard Ken in an interview recently say, oh, no, there was food left. Sometimes there was no food left, Ken, really, quite honestly.
That's the part he's going to contest. There was food.
And so we did lots of physical work all day.
Right.
And I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I did like being out at sea. That was quite fun because I was learning a lot of new stuff. I was learning about flags, what they meant, how to climb up the crow's nest. I learned all about ships and caulking decks. And, I learned a hell of a lot of stuff. And it was quite interesting. One of the things I had to do was scrub the floor outside Elcon Hubbard's office. And so literally like Cinderella, I'm on my hands and knees, scrub. He had this, I don't know if it was leather. I think it was inlaid leather on the floor that had to be polished.
So weird.
Yeah, but ships did have that. I think the Titanic had it. Other ships had it as part of their flooring decor and stuff.
I see.
But I can't remember if it was a Sea Org symbol. There was some kind of symbol on the floor. And anyway, so I'm on the floor and then he has a temper tantrum. And I was so scared because this guy, when he erupted, everybody on the ship knew that he was angry. And I just remember he had all these papers on his desk. And the next thing I know that he's outraged and he's shouting at the top of his voice and swearing and all this stuff's flying around and then these little guys, I don't know if it was Ken or Dunleavy, I can't remember, Tony Dunleavy comes running in, he's calling everyone, the messengers of left, right and centers, like big panic. I can't even remember what it was about, but all I knew is I had to get out of there as fast as I could.
So he wasn't mad about your scrubbing, he was mad about something else.
Yeah. But you don't want to get in his way. No, that's it. And when he's angry, you don't want to be near him, right? Because you could become a victim of something, of his anger. No, you don't. You don't want to be anywhere near the guy. He's very, very angry when he's angry.
Did he? Can I ask you a question? Was there, I've heard from other people who were adult crew members at this time that there was a lot of wild stuff. But my question is more really about did you ever observe Lafayette Ronald drinking alcohol to excess or being intoxicated in another manner?
No, I didn't. My husband did because my husband worked very, very closely with him and wrote about it. And
can you tell us your husband's name?
Neville Chamberlin.
The Neville Chamberlin.
Yeah, a very, very dangerous man, apparently, according to Scientology. Because what they did, they locked him up in the basement of the manor house.
Yeah.
At St. Hill. And remember that he had audited L. Ron Hubbard. He had audited Jane Kemper, Herbie Parkhouse, David Gaiman. He had audited all these guys who ran the Guardian's office. He knew their secrets, right?
He knew everything.
And he did. He knew a lot. He knew a hell of a lot. And they forced him. They would not release him from the basement until he had done his overts and withholds write-up.
Right.
So he did one, not good enough. They want more. Do it again, not good enough. They want more. So he had a very acerbic wit and he was quite sharp, but he decided, probably to his own detriment, to write down the most heinous crimes that you could possibly think of in his OW write-up. And so they, to this day, use that as a reason to say he's a very dangerous man. It was all made up. But of
Yeah.
course, he's the biggest criminal on earth, and it's just bullshit. And
Now,
this is a man who bought.
Isn't Neville like one of the original clears also?
Yes.
Right. Like he's like in the top number 10, or like in the first 10 clears on planet Earth, right?
I can't remember what his clear number was, but it was certainly in the below 100 somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And he was also involved in taking the ships over, from Scotland when L. Ron Hubbard was buying the ships and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah. And did you guys meet there, or did you meet later?
No, we met later. So when I was 11, after I'd come back from the ship, we met there, and I would look after his son when he went to work, and his wife went to work at the time. His wife, ironically, taught me to iron shirts. And then when I left, I'll tell you the story afterwards. But anyway, we're back on the RPF. So we're back on the RPF.
So you got assigned to the original rehabilitation project force, the concentration camp, which was only located at that time on these vessels with Lafayette Ronald and the other two that were, all over the place, kind of a situation. The Royal Scotsman and the Athena.
Athena, yeah, and there was the Diana as well, wasn't there?
And the Diana.
Anyway,
right.
So then we went to. We were studying at night and doing physical work in the day, and this is when we were doing the training routines, and some guy opposite me was bull baiting me that, when they give you a hard time and try and make you blink and smile and laugh and everything. And he took my bra off.
How did he do? This is an outrageous story. So again, this is the 70s, guys. Bras were not what they are today. There was no jelly bra, strapless thing. Okay. So you've got like a constriction device on with several prongs. Did he just reach around your back and then just remove it, or did he grab it from the front and just rip it off? Like what happened?
So this guy had done this before, but he undid he just got his two hands and pushed the hooks apart under the bed. Then he put his hand up my sleeve like this, pulled it out like this, and then pulled it out like that.
And then just did he pull the bra out of your shirt? Yeah. And then now, what you guys have to understand is that when you are the person who is the trainee, okay, in this moment, and the person across from you is, the in charge, they're called a coach, but let's be honest, you're the slave and they're the master. Okay. So when the master is sitting across from you and saying or doing anything, the only thing that person cannot do, the only rule is that they cannot leave their chair. So if this man was big enough, because you're only 3 feet apart, y'all, if he could lean over and do all this to you physically, that was considered okay because he didn't leave his chair. If you react in any way, you have to start all over. And this person has to do that over and over and over and over until you have no reaction whatsoever, no fidgeting, no excessive blinking, no audible sounds, no moving. You are meant to be stone.
And can you imagine how I felt?
How old are you?
I'm 12.
Okay,
so, but
12 years old.
How I felt, given that I'd experienced some essay in the past, right?
Correct.
In South Africa. I'm terrified. So there was no way in hell I was going to flunk this TR. I was going to absolutely be deadpan, and I wasn't going to show any emotion whatsoever, because it would it would say flunk and you'd have to restart. And I actually didn't. He didn't have to do it again. But that I just think
it's disgusting. It's not. It's like, now you have 2 daughters. If an adult man, when they were 12, had sat across from them in a room filled with other people, guys, let's be totally honest about this. It wasn't just the 2 of them in a private room, which would make it worse and better at the same time. You're in a room filled with other people, some other children, some other adults, where you are having your brassiere. Okay. And for the men in the audience, this would be akin to if you had snaps on your underwear and somebody put their hand down your pants and undid the snaps and then pulled your underwear out and hung it in front of your face, okay? At 12 years old, if someone had attempted to even touch your daughters in this manner, okay, yeah, I would be in jail. I'd be incarcerated right now. I'll tell you that. I would be incarcerated because that person would not be breathing. Like,
no, that's right.
It's
and
insane
all this did is add another layer of trauma onto what's already been a huge, massive burger of trauma. And I'm just numb. I'm done. You could have done. I remember sitting on the tarp outside at night, looking at the stars and feeling nothing. We
talked about your self-esteem as a younger child, which was already in the toilet. As you start getting blamed for things, and as this essay happens and all these layers go on, at this point, you're in the middle of the ocean. What are you contemplating at this point as a child in the middle of nowhere with no parents, no one to reach out to? Was there anybody who you thought on the boat at that time that it was like, okay, I can talk to this person. They're going to help me. They're safe.
No, nobody, because everybody's in the same boat. They're all being controlled. Okay. Right. And I was, when you do join the ship, you're assigned a buddy, right? Or what they call a miner's mate. And this lady was assigned as my miner's mate, but she was absent because she had to be on post on her job. She wasn't allowed to leave to look after kids. The kids, from age 11, you're an adult in a child's body. I mean, I was smoking. Right. I learned to smoke, but we weren't allowed to smoke above decks when we were in port, only when we're out at sea,
Right. Don't want people seeing children smoking like chimneys. That's not a good look. That's not a good look. But you were all doing it.
Yeah. And I tell you, it makes me emotional every time I talk about this, but my saving grace was, I remember being completely numb, but the saving grace for me, and to this day are just like, mean so much to me, were dolphins, because I would go to the prow of the ship, and I'd be scrubbing or polishing brass or whatever, and thinking, I'll never get out of this. I'll never get out of it. And you start thinking the thought, I'm not good enough, right? You're never good enough. Nothing you do is ever good enough. Yeah. And once you're on that wheel, you can't get off it. And I remember looking over at the prow of the ship, and the dolphins used to absolutely love, well, actually it was the bow of the ship. So they would love to jump and swim and actually all around the ship. And I just, what gave me hope was they are free.
Yeah.
So freedom exists outside of this bubble.
Wow.
Yeah. And it goes deep. It really goes deep. The dolphins mean an enormous amount to me. And that's the only thing I could hold on to, because my mother didn't know where I was. My mother wasn't going to come and rescue me. When I was on the farm, no one came to rescue me. We were never going to be rescued.
Right.
So that's why I had to be as naughty as I could to try and get offloaded. It took a year, but at least it happened.
So what were the naughty things you did?
Okay, so I remember I had no money, right? So I would steal Tampax, soap, shampoo.
Did you steal these to use them because you were having a period, like a human woman?
Yes.
Oh, weird. So as a child laborer, you had to pay for your own sanitary napkins.
Yeah.
I want everybody to get that through their mind. Now, listen, having children is not cheap. There's no child in the world that's cheap. Okay. They're all expensive. They all have to eat and sleep and have clothes. And if you have one that has a vagina and a uterus, they're going to eventually need a tsunami of sanitary products at some point. Right. So as a 12-year-old, you are forced to purchase your own Kotex.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you would steal the things that you needed, soap, Kotex. What else? What were the horrific things you were stealing, that you were nicking from the crew?
That was the work. That's all I stole, right? Just those things. But I got into really big trouble. One with the shredding the knowledge reports, right?
Right.
That was a big deal.
That story is covered in the Sun. So basically you were like, I'm over this shit. Fuck you guys. And as you guys know, Scientology is a huge snitch culture. That is part of the control that is done to every member. You are told to write insanely detailed accounts of things that happened that are so minute. Like, it could be you stealing one of those tampons, but it will literally be a 5-page report about all of the things and like time, place, form, and event, just like fucking the minutia of the minutia of the minutia, right? Yeah. And these things are used to then basically blackmail members into not continuing those activities, or, do other things that maybe they wouldn't necessarily want to do. It's all a mind manipulation, and they're stored in folders. So, all of these reports are there forever. At any point they can just bring out and be like, well, by the way, we know how much of a criminal you are because look at all these reports, right? So you had a bunch of reports. What were you supposed to do with these reports? I was supposed to file them in each individual ethics folder. Okay.
There's no way on earth I was going to do that. I wasn't going to do that. No. And
so the other thing, did everybody a favor. You should get a commendation from all these people who probably aren't even in Scientology anymore. Be like, thank you so much for shredding that report that talks about how I stole $50 from whatever. Yeah. So how did you shred them? Was there like a shredding machine on the ship?
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, you've got to have it where L. Ron Hubbard goes, so does a shredder, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That should tell you something. How many other religious leaders literally have not only a shredder, but a team of people dedicated to getting rid of the evidence for him? I don't know anyone outside of like the mafia that has something like that, right?
Yeah. Somebody got an over. Yeah, it's crazy. But the other thing that, and I do find this quite amusing, even though, I wouldn't advocate stealing, but I stole a pair of trousers. And I went to do TRs with somebody in the course room, and the person opposite me was Maggie Sabersky, and they were her trousers.
She's like, "You have my pants on." You're like, "Flunk, flunk." You reacted.
Yeah, so I got into trouble. But so that's they didn't know what to do with me, and I wasn't the only kid. There was another guy called. Can I say his name?
You can. It's fine if you want. I mean, I don't know who we're talking about, but go ahead.
So his name, it was Lonnie Garapi, and he was really naughty. He was really naughty, doing really horrible things and cutting things and stealing and all sorts of stuff. And so Ron Hubbard had him locked up in what's called the twin screw motor room at the back of the ship.
And how old was he?
Probably same age as me.
So 12.
Yeah. About 11 or 12, yeah.
Okay. And so he's put this child, and what is that place that he's locked up in? What is in there? So
the twin screws of the ship are turning in the water, and there's like there's sort of a netting, and you can see the water, right? And then there's a shelf, just a shelf running along, and he was put on the shelf in the twin screw motor room. Now, of course, if he fell over, he'd go in the netting, but he's not far from these churning twin screws that could just churn him to, mincemeat.
And those twin screws, just for everybody, we're in the back of the ship now, and these twin screws are basically propelling the ship forward. Yeah. They are like little paddles, right, that are just paddling the ship forward with like.
Yeah, I don't understand the machinations, but yeah.
So if the netting failed, like let's say he fell asleep and he rolled over into the netting, he would just be dead. He would be.
If the netting failed, yeah.
How long was he in there?
I don't know. I just remember him screaming and me being absolutely terrified. I didn't know what was going on.
Was it more than a day, though, that he was in there?
Oh, yeah.
Like several days, right?
Yeah. I don't know how long, but it was definitely more than a day.
So this is where they've put a child, because he's naughty and misbehaving and probably like you wants to leave. Yeah. So the appropriate thing to do is to put him in a literal life and death situation in the dark. You have to also understand pitch black. There's you can see the ocean, which is also dark. But like there's no one there. There's no person. It's just him on this ledge inside the bowels of the ship in probably one of the most dangerous places to be in the entire ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then some of the other work they had me to do, right. So I then, because I still am not conforming and I still want to leave, I'm assigned what's called the RPF's RPF.
Oh, yes, that's fun. I've done that. Mm-hmm.
And
that's the concentration camp, guys. Yeah. There is a lower level that you can go to. It's very fun. Please tell us, regale us with the living conditions and food supply for the concentration camp. I'm
sleeping on a hammock. I'm on a hammock. And
outside or inside?
It's inside, but it's inside a cabin at the front of the ship.
Okay.
I think there's one other person in there with me, but I'm not allowed to talk to anybody. I've got no terminals, as we used to say. Nobody I could go to about anything, right? And if I did say anything, you can't talk, shut up, no one wants to hear you. Right. You're a nobody, right? I mean, to this day, I remember people on the ship really well. I remember Janice really, really well. I remember a lot of the messengers. I remember Elcon Hubbard. I remember Mary Sue. I remember Quentin. I remember Suzette, Arthur, Diana, John Horwich. I remember all of these guys. Many people, I can remember them. And if I were to say to any of them, they would never know who I was. Janice remembered me vaguely later, because you're non-human, you're a nobody. I felt absolutely unseen, unheard, unwanted. I didn't feel human,
Yeah.
You would treat a dog better than I was treated,
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, if we treated a dog, if you had a pet dog and you treated your dog the way you were treated in the concentration camp, you would be arrested. The authorities would come arrest you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is how you were treated as a 12-year-old by the adults and the other children who are made to treat other people, regardless of age, this way.
So my punishment work-wise, because I wasn't allowed to work with the RPF members anymore on the decks, was to get a little, what we call a billy can, an Australian term for a little like a baked bean can or a can of beans, empty. Go down to the engine room to the bilge tanks, empty the bilge tanks of this disgusting waste oil muck from the ship, to empty it, to clean it out. You're never going to do it, right? And
where do you dump that? Is it just getting dumped in the ocean, or what happens?
No. You have to put it in like buckets. Stick it in buckets.
Where do those buckets go?
I don't know. No idea.
Who knows? Okay.
But what I found out later is there's a bloody pump to do it, right? There's a pump to clean out the bilge tanks.
Yeah.
But this is just punishment for punishment's sake. And it's disgusting. Honestly, the engine room, especially at sea, it's hot. It's stinking oil. It's slippery. The floor's slippery because there's oil everywhere. It's just not a pleasant place to be. And then you've got this and you stinking. I mean, your boiler suit that you're wearing, is shining because it's got oil all around it, over it. It's just gross. But at this stage, I didn't actually care. Can you imagine what my hair looked like? I just can't imagine. Just gross.
Just matted with oil and sweat and dirt.
Just gross, Anyway, so I'm still not conforming. So Aaron Hubbard gives Hannah Eltringham the order to have me locked up in the chain locker of the ship, at the front of the ship, at the forward, near the foredeck. And I'm put down in the chain locker, which you're sitting on shackles of wet iron. And they're I don't know if it must be iron.
This is the chains that are attached to the anchors that get dropped into the ocean. So you're sitting on top of these enormous, like if any of you've ever been to like a maritime museum or anything, and they always have like a sculpture of like an anchor somewhere, right? With the chains. Those chains are like feet long, just the chain itself. They're enormous. They're made of heavy, heavy iron. And at this point, these are probably not well kept. Let's be honest. They're not painted. They're not good. They're rotting. They're fucking covered in barnacles and ocean, right? So how big
And
is the
it's dark.
space that you're in?
I mean, I don't know. I'm
Could you
assuming,
stand?
because remember, it's coming to a point.
Right.
Because
Could
of
you
the
stand in there even as a 12-year-old child?
You can stand on it, but you're not even, because you're standing on what are the shackles. But I'm just sitting on cold. It's hard and it's cold and it's wet. And I was sharing it with an African American girl who, until a month ago, or 2 months ago, when she was interviewed by Janice and Mark, I'd forgotten her name completely. I thought her name was Lisa, and it turns out it's not. And she was interviewed by Mark and
oh wow.
And I went, wow, that's her, and she remembers being in there with me. But she wasn't in for the whole time I was in. I was in for 3 days and she's Amanda Ambrose's daughter.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. She said something in her interview to Mark and Janice that she enjoyed being in there, but I cannot for the life of me understand anybody would enjoy being in there. And I was in Paris last September and flying back with an engineer who works on ships and knows a lot about them. And if you were to look up what happens, how many people die every year in confined spaces like that.
Oh, sure.
I could have died, and I didn't realize, not only because the anchor could have been let down.
Sure.
But
that's it.
Because apparently the iron absorbs the oxygen in the air, and you can suffocate.
Yeah.
I was in there for 3 days and 3 nights. They fed me food through a hatch. They would take me out to the toilet, and then I'd go back down again. And also during that period, I've mentioned this before, he was lovely. He was a sweet man on the ship, and he had what they called in Scientology a type 3 episode, where he had a psychotic breakdown.
That basically means that you for Scientologists, okay, imagine we've all seen movies of concentration camps, of prisoners of war, of people being kidnapped, all these things. There's always a point in the movie where the person who has been, human trafficked in whatever way they've been human trafficked, where they're like, that's fucking it. And they just lose their shit. And they're like, fuck you. And they're ready to just fight everybody, right? To get the fuck out of where they are. In Scientologies, that will to fucking save yourself and get out of there and tell all of the people around you, you're fucking nuts. This place is crazy. I'm out. You are psychotic. You have lost the plot. We need to put you in a padded cell at this point, because it's like the scene in The Matrix where Neo wakes up in the little womb thing and he's like, what is going on? Right. You finally wake up and you're like, holy shit, I'm in a fucking nightmare. Right. And in Scientology, when you actually wake up and you're like, I got to get out of here, you are bad. You are the most broken that anyone can be. Right. So let's I just want the audience to understand that, what's really happening is that you are realizing you in danger, girl, and you got to get out of here. And they label that kind of energy, you having your human impulse to survive, as the worst thing that could possibly happen to you.
Yeah. And this poor guy had fallen in love with somebody who spurned his affections. And so that, on top of everything else that was going on, he lost the plot, and he was escorted into a room, and they have what they call baby watch, where they have a team of people who, I don't know if they sit in the room or just outside. And he's
sometimes
fed
both.
vitamins. Yeah. And he has to have CalMag.
Of course. Got to calm him down. Get that calcium and magnesium in you.
Yeah, honestly.
So disgusting.
And no one was allowed to talk to him, and they had to speak in hushed tones. And this guy, I heard him ripping his mattress with his teeth. I heard he was pulling in the cabin that he was in, they had wooden paneling. He was pulling the paneling off the wall. And, so I'm listening to all of this going on, and it's just hard. I just remember it. You're just so desperate, but I'm thinking, God, I just hope how bad can it get? I'm locked up now. Surely I can leave.
Yeah.
Anyway, after 3 days and 3 nights, I was then taken to the laundry room and locked in the laundry room, which was next door. At least it was light and it was a bit more spacious. But
Right.
I was in there. I can't remember how long I was in there for. And then I had to petition LRH to be allowed to go back and join my family in the Sea Org at St. Hill. And I did.
So you're
that,
begging, you're basically essentially begging Lafayette Ronald for permission
yeah,
to leave this ship where clearly nobody wants you anyway. Okay. Clearly you're not the droid they're looking for, but you have to beg this psychotic man to allow you to, at the next port, who knows where that's going to be, to get off of this ship permanently and then return to England where your mother and your siblings are.
Yeah. And I think we were in probably Las Palmas, I think, when I left the ship. And then I was escorted off the ship by somebody who I also found through this community about a year ago. And I thought it was somebody else, and it wasn't. It was this other guy. But
it's interesting how our memories get scrambled a bit because there's so much trauma that, like, if somebody is more prominent, and this is for all trauma survivors, if someone becomes a face you can remember, sometimes their face gets superimposed into other incidents, into other like things that happened, because that person's like safer to remember. You know what I mean? A little bit. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild detangling these things. That's why also these conversations are so important for us to be able to talk about the things, because we can all share together and get the whole story. It's like we have bits of the story, you know? So then you're escorted off the boat. You're sent back to England, or what happens there?
Yeah, sent back to England, met at the airport, not by my mother.
Of course not.
But, you know, by the guy who does the daily trips to drop off all the parcels and stuff.
Sure.
You know, sending all the shipments to L. Ron Hubbard. He's caviar and he's champagne and cigarettes and whiskey and
of course.
Stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Got to have those cools wherever he is.
Yeah, exactly. And then I came back to St. Hill, and then I remember I'd missed out on schooling. So I hadn't had any schooling at all the whole year I was there. When I'd come back into England, I had enrolled in a school only for about a month before I was sent to the ship. So I didn't experience any sort of English schooling at all until I got back, but I'd missed a whole year. And by this time, it's age 11 when you finish junior school, and then you move up to the next section, 11 to 18. And so I had missed out from the 11 to 12 years. So I joined when I was 12. And managed to catch up. And I actually quite enjoyed school. And what I enjoyed about it was not a Scientology school. It was a public school. We got a really nice meal for lunch every day, but we still had the embarrassment of having to give a little pink ticket to the lady at the desk.
Because you were poor.
Because we're poor, and the Scientologists, you know, but they paid for that meal. But the kids got fed better than the adults did, you know. And that's part of the reason, I think, why children were gotten rid of in the end, is that, you know, they were like sapping money.
All that money that it cost that they were spending to feed people. Exactly. I mean, like, legitimately, guys, when I was working in the 90s, when I was enslaved in the 90s, it cost per person per day to feed, house, you know, all of the, you know, bills according, you know, like the energy consumption and everything. At the place that we live, the Wilcox, costs less than 10 cents per person to house people there. Our food budget was $2,000 per week for 300 people. 7 days of meals, 3 times a day for 300 people for $2,000. That's less than $1 per day per person. It's insane, the cheapness. And then, but they got to send that money to the, you know, RTC, to David Miscavige, to all those people. We got to, before you get paid, before you get fed, all of this money has to go to these other places, or, you know, and if there's some left over for food, awesome. They would run a debt with the power company before they wouldn't send money to David Miscavige. You guys have to understand the priorities. You're never going to not I'm going to use a Scientology term here, guys, flow to power. Okay. Because your body and your immediate life is less important than Lafayette Ronald and David Miscavige. Period. And we all knew that. We all knew inherently, I'm getting up every day to do the work of Lafayette Ronald, embodied in my time at, by David Miscavige, for Source and for, the Religious Technology Center. That's what I'm doing this for. It's wild. You get, and it becomes normal. It becomes okay. You are nothing. You become nothing.
That's it. But arriving back in the UK was like heaven, because compared to being on the ship, this was amazing. I had a bit of freedom, and I had my family, and I started to enjoy school. And so I started to thrive a bit, and I was doing better and much happier. And the friends that you form, the bonds of friendship that you form in that organization are strong. They're really strong, because you bond. It's trauma bonding.
100%.
And I wasn't allowed to talk about what had happened to me. Okay,
so it's confidential.
It's going to be in session, or if any. And so I was audited quite a lot about that. And then of course, the RPF is still there. That so this, I'm still aware it exists. The last thing I want to do is hit the RPF again. I don't want to go anywhere near this. I'm being a good little soldier here. And after school, we didn't do homework. I had to go and work on reception. Really enjoyed working on reception, because you're meeting people from all over the world. It was vibrant. Students were happy, and it was an exciting time. And then my mother got quite a lot of money from her divorce settlement from this man in South Africa, who had very conveniently paid for us all originally to come on a one-way ticket to England. But she nevertheless, there was a lawyer in Scientology who did help her get her divorce settlement. She got quite a bit of money. What happened to that money? No, she didn't buy a house. In those days, you could buy a 3-4 bedroom house for about £4,000 in those days. Yeah. She spent it all on her SHSBC.
Of course. Again, got to flow to power, guys. If you do anything for yourself, you are literally the concept of the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics, right? It is the dynamics that you give your energy, your power to are never you. It's never you. It is always the group of Scientology, and then in consequence that you believe all mankind. But the group that is Scientology, that you are giving your time, your money, your life essence to, is Lafayette Ronald, and now, of course, encapsulated in David Miscavige. And if you are not giving 100%, then there you have crimes. You're going to be interrogated. If you don't disclose, if your mom had kept that a secret, like, let's say, hypothetical scenario, she gets this money and she's like, okay, this is on the low. Like, I'm just going to keep this. She would have been like, you can't, if your parent dies and you get an inheritance and you don't immediately tell the person who steals the money from you, the registrar, right, that you've just come into whatever amount of money, that's it. You're going to spend the rest of your Scientology life being interrogated and not moving up that very, very important, very valid, very, magical bridge to nowhere.
Yeah. And you remember this time we didn't have David Miscavige yet. We still had Ron Hubbard still running things.
Right.
And David Miscavige and his sisters, Denise and Laurie, came to St. Hill and enrolled in the same school. So they would come to school with us, and we'd go to school together. I remember him running around. I think he had asthma. He was a really small little guy. I mean, Neville, my husband, he had gone to visit the family when he was regging back in the day, and he'd shared his bunk bed. They had a bunk, and they put him up in the kids' room with David Miscavige, and he didn't have anything good to say about him, really.
No, I mean, let's be honest. David Miscavige was probably born a psychopath and became more of a psychopath, in my personal opinion, due to his exposure to Lafayette Ronald personally and the techniques of Scientology in coupling with his own father, who, by the way, was a complete psycho. Like, everyone wants, I mean, I get in a lot of trouble because I refuse to put hero capes on villains, right? And Ron Miscavige Sr. was a villain. He absolutely was a villain. He abused and he admitted this. This is not me making conjecture. He says it in his book. He said it in almost every interview he did, that he beat his wife. He beat his children. He was a horrific father prior to like becoming fully committed to Lafayette Ronald. And, you know, David Miscavige was molded in that image and Lafayette Ronald's image. So he had his own biological psychopath that molded him, and then got the best psychopath, you know, Lafayette Ronald, who he is, you know, trying to outdo at this point. I mean, in my personal opinion, I think he's having a pissing contest with the dead man, trying to outdo the depravity, the abuse, the absolute money mongering that Lafayette could only dream of. I mean, if Lafayette had been as kind of keen on making money the way David Miscavige is, he would have made way more money. But he was always trying to do it in this very grandiose way. And it was always too much at once. That's why he failed so many times and the government would come from. David Miscavige has played the long game and put out thousands of front groups that are all tax exempt all throughout the world, where he's raking in literal millions per week that he's sitting on in some offshore account in the Caymans that only he has access to, guys. This is not rocket science. It's simple math. He's the head of the world's largest pyramid scheme on planet Earth, where he is reaping all of the benefits. I mean, you're talking about Lafayette Ronald having the caviar and the steak dinners and things like that. In the 60s, when there was no money, people like my mom, who got in 1970, there was no money at the San Francisco Org. Nobody, they could barely pay rent. They're all living in a tiny fucking apartment, 20 human adults in a tiny apartment, because that's how they can afford the rent. They were lucky to get $5 per week, y'all, in pay. And when you're a smoker, like all Scientologists were, half of that's going to your cigarettes. Like,
exactly.
Am I eating or am I having a pack of, you know, fucking cigarettes? I mean, like, that's what people were choosing from at the time. Meanwhile, Lafayette Ronald's on a boat with an army of child waitresses, literally walking around with ashtrays, catching his ashes as he's pontificating and eating caviar and steak and getting fatter and fatter, you know, while everyone around him is starving. I mean, that's the difference between him and David Miscavige. David Miscavige has body dysmorphia, like to the max. So all the plastic surgery and the pompadour hair and the, you know, I have to be fit in my 60s. I have, you know, he's probably had chest implants and all this other stuff too, because he's so vain. L. Ron Hubbard was under the delusion that he was magnificently good looking. And David Miscavige is trying. We all could see the emperor had no clothes on that one. Not him, though. Not him.
No, but I remember letter reading, you know, and I was typing away on an old typewriter, electric typewriter, and smoking away, you know. And I remember we couldn't afford really expensive cigarettes, so we'd smoke the cheapest ones. So that in England they were called number 6s, and they were gross, you know, they were really dreadful. But I remember that. But there's another thing that's just come to mind is Denise and Laurie were really. They're very pretty girls, okay, and quite buxom, and they put it out a lot, right? And these are children who they're not given the boundaries, what's okay to do with their bodies, what isn't, right?
Sure.
And so all the children, not every single child, of course, but children in Scientology, when you're told that you're an adult in a child's body, you start acting like an adult.
Correct.
Sexually. Right. And this is, and you start to, there are blurred lines and gray areas and everything. And when I was 14, I had a boyfriend who was in his 20s and he raped me. Right. So I went to, I didn't tell anybody because I was ashamed. And also,
were you still in the Sea Organization at this time?
Yeah, I was this happened at Stone. And I didn't tell anyone because I thought I just felt ashamed, and I also felt I knew that it would be my fault, okay, because of Scientology you in. So I didn't say anything. Then I broke up with him. He didn't break up with me. And he married a girl, an American girl, and they came to the States. I don't know if she came specially for this, but he admitted to her what he'd done. She came back to the UK, told the ethics officer, who was Monica Carino at the time. Monica, then of course, it's my fault. I'm not allowed to report it to law enforcement.
Of course,
and I've got
not.
to make a move. So I'm assigned a condition. Nothing happened to him. Nothing.
Of course not.
Nothing.
What was his job? What was his so important job that he could?
He was assistant guardian, UK.
Of course. See? So because he was working directly with Mary Sue,
Jane Kember.
Yep,
Yeah.
and Jane, all of those guys, nothing can happen to him. We need him. You're just a piece of shit, hussy who can't keep their pants on. Like, go fuck yourself. This is, it's not just, I mean, people try to downplay the absolute misogyny in Lafayette Ronald's manifestos, right? But the truth of the matter is, let's say the tables had been turned. Let's say you had done this to him, okay? And then you get married to someone else, and that man goes back and confesses what you did. Even if you were the assistant guardian, you would have been punished because you're still a woman. You're still expendable, because we can see that demonstrated in the fact that Lafayette Ronald did nothing, not one thing, to protect his wife, to get her out of jail. He did not pay for a good lawyer, nothing. In fact, he did the exact opposite. He erased her from Scientology history. The only people who knew about Mary Sue Hubbard, right, were people from your era, like my mother, who joined the Guardian's office in the 70s. Obviously, she knew who she was working for. Okay. And at that later on, like when I started doing Scientology in 1988, like I was hardcore at that point when I was 12. You did not mention Mary Sue. You did not mention Mary Sue. Yeah. You did not mention Quentin. You did not mention these, your husband, Neville. You don't mention, oh my God. If you knew about these people and those people's names came out of your mouth, just in casual conversation, like, oh, I know you. You were friends with so-and-so, right? Like, no, you weren't. No, you weren't, because all of what people have to understand is that when Operation Snow White happened, we're skipping ahead a lot, but when Operation Snow White happened and the Guardian's office was essentially cleared out, not only was that the Sea organization, right, taking over this spy wing and becoming the Office of Special Affairs, but it was a house cleaning for Scientology. Yeah. All of the people with the most dangerous secrets were excommunicated immediately. Yeah. Boom, done, out. We do not talk about them. We do not mention them. They never existed. These were people who worked with Lafayette, who worked with Mary Sue, who did not just this dirty work, but also built the very organizations that were now standing as a result, right? Like they're the reason that other things were successful. It wasn't just all nasty work. Like they worked hard to make Scientology grow, right, as an entity. Yeah. And they were erased from the history books because they had done bad things. They did know Lafayette's secrets. They did know Mary Sue's secrets. And she was, she was also confined, not to a chain locker, to a mansion in the Hollywood Hills for the remainder of her days, where, not even her oldest son could come see her because he was immediately excommunicated. Lafayette Jr., who became Ron DeWolf, changed his name, that whole thing, and was hunted for like his whole life, by the agents of both David Miscavige and Lafayette. His own mother didn't save him. I mean, like, this is the depravity of these people. So when you tell me this, like, I'm watching the audience, their response, right, to the things that you're saying, that is like, to you and I, right, who grew up in this environment, these things are not shocking. This is the sad news. Like, we know now in our elder years, in our our golden time here, having healed a bit from all of this and, found outlets, therapy, whatever, right, that we know that these are crimes. We know this is like unbelievable abuse right?
Yeah.
But like when you're inside of it, all of this is the norm. This abuse, this mind control, this like I'm at fault because this man raped me. These things, this is normal. You knew that. That's why you didn't say anything. It's not that you were like, oh, well, I wasn't abused. It was like, I can't, because the consequences for asserting myself is worse than what happened.
And can I also say that there is this repressed, so there's a whole repression around your sexual identity in Scientology. You can't be gay.
No.
You can't. You get into trouble if you masturbate. You know. So you've got all of these men and women who are obviously not allowed to have sex because they're not married. So you're repressed, right? You've got all this pent up, bottled repression of sexual energy, and put into the mix nubile, pretty young girls who on the bus going to St. Hill and, every day, oh, there's nowhere to sit on my lap. This went on all the time.
All the time.
You can see how people went, as they say, went.
Of course, they got frozen right there. They went
into
this. They started doing things that were. It's a very puritanical society that he's built. This conquest of the virgin, is the ultimate, because the girls are supposed to be virginal, but in the same vein, adult men. Now, it was this a common occurrence too in your era, where adult men would be marrying teen girls, be marrying like minors. That was normal.
Openly having relationships with them.
Yeah. And again, if a woman was like, oh, that hot young buck, I want a little piece of that, that's it. She's fucking out. Now, not that it's okay for a woman to do that. I'm not justifying the reverse pedophilia, but for a man to look at a woman child, a girl child, she's not a woman, she's a girl. Okay, she's a child, and see her as an object of sex and say, that's the person I'm going to commit my life to, right? They're 30, they're 25, whatever, it doesn't matter. That's totally okay.
Yeah.
But two adults engaging in adult love and consensual sex before they're married, not okay. Two teens acting on teen hormonal impulses, I touched a boobie, or, whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. You're the worst person in the world. But an adult man fawning after, grooming and demanding sex from a girl that he has now wed, totally okay.
Yeah. And also, don't even get me started on menstruation for young girls and not being allowed to take pain relief when you've got pains every month.
Oh, right.
There's all this sort of stuff going on. Oh, yeah. Nightmare.
Just for those of you out there who have a period, just imagine being told that your period pain is not real, that the pain in your body is just your reactive mind acting up, and it's just literally it is a mind over matter thing. So you cannot take not an Advil, not an ibuprofen, not an aspirin, nothing that will actually alleviate the pain. You can eat chocolate. Chocolate is not banned, thank God. That would just be, I think we'd have a riot on our hands for sure. Maybe that's what we need to do. Just somehow tell them that the psychs have infiltrated all the chocolate and it's all got laced with Xanax now or something like. But like you could eat chocolate and then you could just keep your TRs in, okay? Go completely disconnect from your own body and just sit there and be there comfortably. While now that thank you science for finally telling us in the year 2023 that period cramps on average for a woman are akin to the pain level of a heart attack. Okay. Yeah. And this is not just a Scientological thing where we've been ignoring women's bodies. We also found out in the same year that they've never tested those tampons that you stole on human bodies or with blood. They've only ever tested these objects that we are inserting into our bodies for the last 75 years on like blue liquid that they show in the ads to show its absorbance. It actually doesn't absorb blood, y'all. It's fucked up. And we're putting something inside ourselves that could literally kill you if you forget or leave it for too long, or if it irritates your skin and causes an abrasion inside your body. Like it is, women should all just get a cape from birth, because like what we have to endure, no matter if you're in this cult or not, which makes it worse, not better, is insane and amazing. And the fact that you made it through that, right? Through the years of periods, through the years of everything, to escape and be
the
alive. And the CalMag. God, Jesus, I don't know what's worse. I'm going to go with period cramps. It's still worse than CalMag.
Cloudy CalMag is just the worst thing on it.
Oh my God. Danielle, come on now.
Did you used to have to follow Adele Davis?
Of course.
That was like,
of course. Or if we were getting a bit chubby, oh my God, I would be like considered, obese at this point. I mean, I'm a chunky girl. That's all right. But we would be put on the General Motors diet, which is essentially a tomato soup with like garlic in it and some spices. It's like a spicy tomato soup that you can have as much of that as you want throughout the day. And then, you have that only for breakfast. And then at lunch, you have the soup. And like every day it's something different. So one day it's just potatoes. And one day it's like a steak. And one day it's like a salad, right? So it's different every day. And then at dinner, you have the soup and like, I think it's like rice or something, right? And I lasted 2.5 days on that diet. I almost passed out. I was having my period at the time. And to rebel, to prove them wrong, like, fuck you, I don't have to do this death diet, I went and bought my own little frozen pizzas, like little individual pizzas at the Gelson's across the street, little Mama Celeste pizzas and Snickers. And I went on my own Mama Celeste, Snickers, Coca-Cola diet and ran 2 to 3 miles in the morning and at night, worked out like twice a day after doing the 10 plus hours of work. Okay. So I would come in extra early and I lost and of course, guys, I was like 22 at this time. So like your metabolism is a lot different in your 20s. And I lost like 20 pounds in like a week and a half. And I was like, go fuck yourself with it. Because every year for the celebration at, of course, the Celebrity Center, the Chateau, you would have to wear a ball gown that they would purchase especially for this. So and now at this time, guys, you have to realize I'm 5'5", and I was probably like 130 pounds. So I was like, I look like a regular human. But you have to be a stick figure. You have to be, snatched, as the kids say now. And, because
we didn't have that back then.
Oh, you didn't have the gap. Well, yeah, the Celebrity Center came later. That was, a late 70s incarnation for,
Oh, no, Celebrity Center existed, but we didn't have the rule about, losing weight, luckily.
Oh, yeah. No. And I think that's localized really to very specific echelons. Like now, the Commodore's messengers, same thing. They have to be snatched all the time. They have to be thin. At every level, wherever they're working at. Celebrity Center was very particular. If you were not pretty or handsome, you would be put in the basement. You would be what we called a basement person. You would be doing, writing the letters. They don't want you to be seen by the people. You have to be, attractive. You have to be, as my pops would say, my stepdad, who is a, silent generation, you have to be a look upon.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and it's the same. I mean, that is straight from Lafayette Ronald. Look at the young ladies. I don't think there were young men Commodore messengers until much later. There were. There were. Okay.
Yeah. My Rinder was
pretty boys. Were they pretty little boys? Yeah.
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 Yeah, because he was, I mean, like, let's be honest. I don't know anybody who's ever told a story of him doing something with a child, but that does say, and I know he didn't physically do these things, but there is still something quite nefarious and horrific about a very old man in his 60s on a ship in the middle of the ocean without any of these children's parents. I think there was a couple of people who had their parents there too, but with unsupervised young pretty children who he's dressing in kind of a scandalous way to serve him. It's very like, it's giving, he had weird urges, because that's not
when he developed the power of sauce, and we had this, Kenny Campbellman and all these guys were like trumpets and drums and this group that he just thought was the best things in sliced bread. He
Right.
had everybody wearing white. The messengers were wearing like white, really tight fitted kind of jumpsuit things with belts and stuff.
Of course.
Janice can tell you, it's just crazy. Crazy.
I mean, Lafayette Ronald is, he's wild. He was a complete insane person. I mean, like, my theory, I have a theory. It's not proven anywhere, but my theory is, he was during this time on the Apollo and stuff, he was doing his research. We'll put that in air quotes, research into these, into Xenu and all these other things. He was doing a lot of internal processing, right? He was doing a lot of self-reflection. Okay. He was diving into his own psyche. But my theory is that part of this diving into his psyche to discover these things, I think he was tripping on acid for most of it. And where he would have these...
My husband actually witnessed him injecting himself.
Okay, so this has been my theory for a long time, and this is how he discovered Xenu and the body thetans and all this other stuff. And that, kids, is why he banned LSD as the only drug that you cannot have taken, besides all the other psych drugs, but like the only mainstream drug that you cannot have dabbled in any way, shape, or form and still be a SEERG member, because he didn't want anyone else to discover these things basically for free.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Like,
yeah,
well,
exactly.
I want you to pay me for my delusions. I don't want you to find them out because you had a nice trip.
Listen, I've got to tell you a story here, because this is on the flip side, which is quite amusing in a way. So back in the day, in the 60s, he took a fancy to Nev's mother. Right. And she had a partner, right? She had I don't know if they were married yet, but I think they were married, Joe. So one day, Ron turns up at the door of their house and he knocks on the door. She lets him in. He's sitting on the sofa and he tries to have it on with her. He tries to kiss her. Joe walks in and is furious because she's spurning him and pushing him off. Joe used to be a boxer and he punched him.
Good for him.
Sprawling out on the ground. Nev said that he got up crying, went to his car. When he came into the org the next day, had a black eye. Oh, Ron, what happened? Oh, he said, I was doing this research and I went exterior and, I bumped into a wall or something.
I was just so out of the universe. I didn't realize I wasn't captaining my body, and my body just now, of course, he wasn't PTS, except for he wasn't a potential trouble source. But true story, there's degrees of potential trouble source you can be, right? Now, if you have an immediate family member who is antagonistic, who does not like Scientology, who is saying bad things about Scientology, just very specific type of potential trouble source, very dangerous. One of the most dangerous levels, right? So he had his own son, Junior, who was campaigning against him relentlessly everywhere, right? Very publicly, doing a lot of interviews, testifying before Congress, doing all this stuff. Was Lafayette given the punishment that he doled out, to be removed from power, to be not allowed to do things, to be made to confess all of his crimes and figure out what he did? No, it was just attack this kid. Same thing with David Miscavige. David Miscavige's brother, David Miscavige's mother, David Miscavige's father, all out here fucking causing hell. He's still, no one blinks an eye. No one blinks an eye. But you get assaulted, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
It's like it never applies. And this is, the textbook for any cult. The rules apply to you, not to me. I am the supreme. In the Scientology case, I am source. In David Miscavige's case, I am the chairman of the board, right? So I'm above it. I'm exterior to all this stuff. So none of that applies to me. Yeah. It only applies to you.
Absolutely.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's totally wild. Yeah. So we're gonna do a part 2, because we're already like literally we're almost 2 hours in. So I want to get to some questions from the audience. I want to ask you something really important, because we're gonna do part 2 of how, like, later in life here. This is fantastic. I mean, guys, to tell your whole story in one sitting, it's literally impossible. That's why let's talk about this. We're going to transition totally shamelessly to this book. You have read this.
Yes, I have.
Okay. So now let me ask you, as a Scientology casualty, as someone who wasn't necessarily born into this, okay, but you as a very young child were immersed deeply into it and then human trafficked across several countries to sail around the ocean with Lafayette Ronald and then back to England and all of that upbringing. What do you think, how accurate do you think is Jamie's description of how children were brought up, the conditions they were in, their relationship with their parents? How accurate is that to you?
There's not one thing that I read in there that I didn't resonate with. So everything, and some of my story is the same as his story. Later on in part 2, we'll talk about when I went to Clearwater to do a course for a year. I did happen to go into the nursery and see the babies in the state that they were being kept in.
What year was that?
So 1980.
Okay. This is good because, a lot of people, the pushback, even from his own mother, okay, was, basically it was like, that's not what happened. None of the abuse happened. I didn't see it. It didn't happen. The quotes from this article are wild. What the lawyers, first of all, what his mother's saying is funny. One of the pushbacks that she said was hilarious to me because clearly she hasn't read the book, right? So in the book, he talks about the public spankings that happened where if a child was naughty, their parent would be brought in to basically like what's now a chapel, like Lebanon Hall, and they'd be up on a stage and the parent would have to pull the child's pants down and bare ass give them a public spanking in front of all the other children. So Jamie was put up for one of these spankings and his mom was like, I'm not doing that. This is what he says in the book. She flat out refused. She says, that's not happening. And she didn't do it. So then her quote in the article is, that never happened. I didn't do that. I never witnessed it. Of course, Roz, that's what Jamie said. He didn't say you. So it's interesting to me to watch her pushback because I think, first of all, obviously she doesn't have access to the book. She hasn't read his actual words. And they're telling her a story as to how they're going to get her to, give the correct response. Right. And it's interesting to me, like this was a kudos in a way that he gave to his mother. Like at least she had the decency to be like, I'm not participating in that. And neither is my child. So go fuck yourself on that. Right. And she, even now they're still lying to her and she's still so indoctrinated to be like, she doesn't even ask, is that what he said? Can I see the book? Can I see the paragraph where he describes this? Like, no, she's not seen it, But like, I haven't met one person from this era who hasn't said exactly what you just said to me just now, that I resonate with every single thing in this book. Do you feel like, would you say that this book, out of all, and there's been many books written by many people about their time in Scientology. Do you feel that this book, in terms of like the raw kind of radical truth telling that's inside of it, if you could label importance scale, right, in terms of like how this will impact the broad public and allow people like yourself to feel more comfortable coming forward with their stories, what would you rate that in terms of that?
Okay, so as a story, if you were to just take away the really good writing in the book, because I'm astonished that someone who was illiterate can write so bloody well. And he's obviously educated himself to such a degree and to such a level that he's able to pull in sources of information to enhance and to make the story more realistic and more real to the person who's reading the book.
Sure.
I think if you were to just take away all of that and then you're left with the stories, that's what you're getting in most everybody else's books, right? You're getting those stories and they're just telling the stories that happened. He happens to be a very good writer, I think. And it's this quality of writing that's enhancing the whole thing and bringing it to life. He is able to take a scenario such as that of the children in the cots, in shitty nappies and whatever, to diapers, as you say, to to bring it to life for the reader. And that's the difference between what his storytelling is like compared to many other books that are not quite as well written, but they still have, they're still somebody's story. They still have validity. And he is able to I don't want to say embellish, but he's able to take you down a road and a path and really get you to smell, see, hear, and feel what's around you.
You're fully immersed. There's not a moment where you're not like, fuck. Like, it's like watching a movie in your mind. Cause like when I read, I'm a very visual person. Like reading a book to me becomes like a movie in my mind. I can feel the characters. I can see them. I can like, you know, like I'm there in the story. If it's a good story, if it's a shit story, I'm like, why am I, what the fuck? This is taking forever. You know, like I already know what's going to happen. Let's get there, kind of a thing, which is why I personally get frustrated with Stephen King. It's like he gives you the first third, which is like fantastic. And then he just takes a shit for the rest of the book. And I can't stand it. And I know that's very controversial. A lot of people love him. And that's why the movies that are not written by him end up being really good. But people who, for some reason, they're just like obsessed with his writing, they're like, it's not the book. And I'm like, they made it better. It's better. Trust me, it's better. But there's some people who just like Jamie, I mean, we're obviously good friends, but like, I truly believe that he has that gift of storytelling where he's like a bard, like of old, where people would sit around these campfires.
He's able to draw, isn't he? He's able to pull out, quotes from mythology and he brings it to life and gives it color. And I think that's important because a lot of us went through the same shit, but you need to be able to describe it in the way that he describes it. Really brings it to life for you because you feel that you're in the room with him.
Yeah, and the part of that, and that's something that I've been working on because Jamie and I have been talking about this for a year. Part of that is, and he makes it clear at the beginning of the book, guys, that he's not going to use the Scientology terminology. He's not going to use that language to talk about these things. And part of what makes it so effective is that anyone could pick up this book and read it and fully have that immersive experience in this horrific story without going like, well, I get it.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. It is part of the thing which keeps our stories from being fully known. Because when, like, if Danielle and I weren't on camera right now and we weren't just, talking to all of y'all, we could go fully into Scientologies and have like a conversation that only we would understand. And we would fully, as they say in Scientology, duplicate each other. Okay. We would, which means come to a full understanding, have that visual experience, but no one outside of this tiny circle can have the visual experience. And then what ends up happening is we all end up doing this over explanation, now we're like indoctrinating people. Let me explain the dynamics to you real quick here. Do you have an hour while I clay demo this out for you? Like we it's not that we're trying to be Scientologists still, right? It is that like we're desperate for people to understand what we went through. And for the first time, and I've been really working really hard on like not utilizing the language as much as possible, which helps me to not be as attached especially when I'm talking about what happened to me. But it helps everyone else to understand the rawness and the kind of universal theme that was our story, right? And I agree with you 100% that Jamie really does an incredible job of that in this book, because it's not a book written as Jamie and I joke sometimes, like if I use too much Scientology terms, he'll like, we'll talk later in the day and be like, that was really inside baseball. Like that was super inside baseball for Scientology nerds, right? Who are like, well, I want to know, let's talk like Scientologists, like, okay, sure. But that doesn't, it doesn't communicate to the courts. It doesn't communicate to the lawmakers. It doesn't communicate to to lawyers, to people who could actually help us get justice. And that's
and it alienates them.
Yes.
Yeah, it alienates them.
Totally. And that's part of the trap that Lafayette Ronald brilliantly set, is that it keeps you as this other no matter what. Even if you leave and you're like, okay, so here's what happened to me, and you just start spouting Scientologies, people are like, this person is nuts. They
Yeah,
are,
exactly.
maybe they're okay. Well, thank you for telling us that. You sound
Yeah.
very interesting. Thanks for coming. Bye. Like, you know, they just don't.
I liken it, I liken it to, Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale,
Mhm.
or I don't know if you've read Brighton Rock by Graham Greene. They
Oh,
are
no.
authors,
Yeah.
yeah, they are authors who really bring it to life and
Yeah.
really put you in there. And kudos to him, honestly. I think he's done a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah. People in the chat were asking, where's your book? Do you have plans to write a book? Ever?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. I agree.
Yes.
I agree with the chat. This is some fucking John LeClaire, Die Hard type shit. I mean, like, and here's the deal, guys. And this is not an insult. This is all of us. If every single one of us could sit down and at a typewriter or whatever, however your process is, and pen this all out.
Mm.
And that's the universal theme. I don't think I've heard from anybody who grew up in this that's read Jamie's book that isn't like, yep, all of it, all of it. And that's the part that I think Scientology is the most afraid of, honestly. I think they are terrified of this book because it's the first one that tells all of it in a way that everybody can understand, no matter what. And it's written, ironically, and Jamie's going to get really mad at me later. I know he's probably watching. It's written in a style that would be a proper KR, that would be a proper knowledge report, because there's no human emotion and reaction. And it's not like, and then I was pissed. Or blah, blah, blah. It is just literally what happened and the visuals and the everything surrounding that, where it's like, we would get in a lot of trouble, guys. If you do write a report, one of those reports that Danielle shredded, if you write a report and you put, and that really made me mad, that's it. They automatically throw your report away. You can't have emotion. You can't have feeling about whatever this wrong is you're writing about. You just have to talk about how terrible the person is and how what they did is the most evil thing on planet Earth with no emotion. Which builds psychosis in people. It really does. Yeah. It makes you kind of like a nutter a bit.
Yeah.
Let me.
to be really crude about it, he is. I don't like to use the word, but I can't think of a better way of. He's almost exercising or vomiting emotion. He's able to you to really feel the real visceral feelings that he has,
which is the opposite of what we were allowed to do at any point in our lives growing up in this. And it's, I think, we talked about this a little bit before we came on, that, you're a little bit older than me. I'm turning 50 next year. You're in your 60s. And as we age, and now that we've gotten to a point of, reflection, our children are grown, we're starting, that's the point in anyone's life where you start to look back on yourself and go like, how did I get here? How did I get to this moment, right? Yeah. And when you can start doing that healing in the tremendously incremental and up and down and swirly process that we're in the middle of, and you look back on this insanity, right, of your early life, it's like, one of the criticisms has been of all of us coming forward is like, you guys aren't kids anymore. You're adults. You should just, like, it's time to move on. It's been 30 years. It's been 20 years. Like, why don't you just fucking get on with your life? First of all, trauma, for those people who are not trauma informed, isn't just something that like, look at that. So cute. That happened. Okay, bye. Right? Like, these are things that burst out of you at completely unknown times. Reading this book for me, I read it in 3 days. I read it so quickly for me. I'm not, my daughter could read this in like, a couple of hours. She's a very fast reader. Was incredibly emotional because my own sets of memories, that things I had not addressed or thought of, or, in any way, I was like, oh, fuck, like, it's an overwhelming thing, but it's also a healing thing. Like, okay, that was real. It's not something I made up. I'm not a crazy person. No. My trauma is real. It's right there in writing. It's the same, right? And it's like, I felt very seen by this book. I wasn't born into the Sea Organization. My mom was in the Guardian's office, and I was put in Scientology school as a young child, and then to public school because we were also poor.
Yeah.
We couldn't afford that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so the idea of, you know, these universal things happening to the children, whether you're, you know, in this baby factory like Jamie was, or like I was, you know, just sort of like along for the ride, you know, until I decided to commit myself at 18.
Yeah.
It's all the same. There's no,
No.
and that just shows that this is from Lafayette Ronald. This is how he indoctrinates the believers, because they truly believe, as you said multiple times here, that a child is not a child. It is a small body that you are inhabiting as this, you know, forever spirit that has
And you're
infinite
a sponge.
power. Yeah.
A sponge. You're taking in everything, you know?
Yeah.
You're taking in everything. And your feelings are so valid. All of this is, you know, our trauma is valid, and it needs to be heard and it needs to be seen. Because from, you know, as Jamie sort of alludes to in his book, we are the forgotten. We are the forgotten. That, you know, you had all these adults in Scientology who knew what they were getting into.
Correct.
Right? They knew. They were following the doctrines. We were children who were being molded in the image of L. Ron Hubbard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And so we had no choice in the matter. These adults had choices. We were not given those choices. We had all choice taken away from us.
Yeah.
We were bereft of any feeling, of any self. We lost self-belief. We, you know, it's gone. It went. And you cannot recover from that in 5 years, 10 years. It's taken me years to come out and speak about it. I never used to tell anybody.
Oh no. Let me ask you a question. So you're now, you left in what year? What year did you finish?
1980, beginning of 82.
Okay, so it's been 45 years.
Mm-hmm.
40 years. 40 years.
I was 21. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's been 40 plus years since you left. How long after leaving have you ever done therapy, or is that something you've never dabbled in?
Yeah, no, I have done.
Okay. But how many years did it take you to be like, okay, I'm going to try this. I got to try something.
God. In the 1990s.
So like a decade at least for you to be like, okay, it's safe. I think I could maybe think about talking to one of these people.
Yeah, but then I never talked to anybody publicly about it. Even then,
of course,
it was, you know, nobody until in my workplace. I never told anybody about my background unless they were very close friends.
Yeah, because it's like your dark secret, right? That like you were this child's, you know, slave for this ridiculous man. It's we're all like, and Jamie talked about that at the opening of his book. The shame that we carry of having been a part of it. Right. Of like, because you exist with these normies and you're like, oh, if they find this out, this is worse than murdering somebody, I think. You know what I mean? Like, if I feel like if we had like, you know, because I'm watching Hunting Wives on Netflix, if we had accidentally killed someone in a, you know, in a crosswalk in a, you know, darkened night and you hit somebody, like it's total accident, you're not on purpose doing it. I think I would have less shame about that than this. And that's, you know, and neither's good. It's not like one's like, oh, yay, murder. No, like what is it's still death. But it's also like, I think it's like the magnitude, you know what I mean? Because we realize later how many people we actually affected, the butterfly effect of having participated in this, right? It does affect many, many people when you've been a part of this.
Yeah.
You know?
And then, you know, when I did the Sun article, all Scientology could come back with is, I'm delusional, you know, Danielle is a nobody, basically.
Yeah, I have the Sun article here. Their response, it's very,
libelous.
They have adorable pictures of you here in this article. And my mods have posted it several times. But the spokesperson said, so the last paragraph here says, I asked my mother before she died, how could you have sent me away like that? And she said, why didn't you tell me you didn't want to go? That's like the most Scientology parent quote of all time. Parents believed they were doing the right thing. A spokesperson for Scientology, an unnamed spokesperson, by the way, they didn't even say it was Karen Powell or anybody, said Danielle Chamberlin is completely discreditable. Her delusions about being incarcerated aboard the Apollo in 1973 are both absurd as well as highly inflammatory and damaging. Like, they're not mad that a child was put in physical danger for their life. What they're mad about, it's a bad look. In the same way that they told you guys, no smoking above deck when we're in port, okay? Not because children should not be smoking cigarettes, but because it's a bad look.
And can I say, these people who've written this weren't there. They don't know. They didn't see it, you know? And then
I don't think there's anybody left from the Apollo days. I'm trying to think who is still in the Sea organization.
Hannah Eltring. Oh, who's
still in Scientology. I'm trying to think if there's anybody who was with Lafayette Ronald, who worked with him personally. I think there was one guy at the San Francisco org forever. He was like 3,000 years old, even when I was a child. And he died like early 90s. He was just like, he was so decrepit. I don't even think he was honestly that old at the time. He was probably in his 60s, but he looked like 450, you know, just smoking and hunched over and like, yes, I worked with LaRon, you know, like just sounded like a cautionary tale. But we were all supposed to be like, he knew Ron, like, ooh, you know, like that made you like extra special. But all those people are gone now. There's no one is left who was trained by Lafayette, who worked with him.
Apart from
who?
Apart from David Miscavige.
Right. And the rest of them, he's got locked away in the trailer in Hemet. He doesn't want those guys getting out because they would tell stories. But yeah, you're right. David Miscavige he's the sole survivor of Lafayette Ronald. He's the one with the tiki torch at the end there. Let me get to some of the comments here. Amy M wants you to make a chart of your family because we need that to like, we need a visual of here and like who was born to whom. Yeah, that's like my family too. It's like wild. It's totally wild. Let's see here. Okay, so Leanie says, I got screamed at once, and it was like, you chose it, girl, deal with it. Yeah. There was also someone, Deanna Ross was in the comments a lot. I'm going to pull up her stuff because she was, I think, also at one time incarcerated in the chain locker as well. Amy M says, it took Holocaust survivors to tell their stories to get action. Correct. And that's why all of our, like you said earlier, our trauma is valid, our stories are valid. And it's important to put these out there. Why do I post my videos to Eastern Standard Time? I don't know. That's a Google glitch. Did you ever see Lafayette physically hurt anyone? No. Okay.
No, but I did, you know, he did throw people overboard, right?
That's beating someone. I mean, in my opinion, that's beating someone up to throw. Now, the overboarding, let me ask you a specific question about that.
He always got somebody else to do it, right?
See.
So, yeah.
But he got to watch it and enjoy the moment. Oh, yeah. Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Was the overboarding done at sea or in port?
In port.
In port. Never like just in the middle of the ocean.
The ones I know of were in port. I don't know if he did any. Yeah.
Yeah, that's still disgusting because if you guys have never been to a port, any port, disgust. It's filled with like all the shit just gets emptied there. It's disgusting. Diseases. Yeah, gross.
I mean, Nev told a story of when someone was thrown overboard and she couldn't swim. He dived in to save. Ron was pissed off with him, but he didn't care. He dived in and he saved this woman. And to teach them a lesson, there's a rubbing straight around the side of the ship, which is kind of like a shelf that you can go underneath. And he pulled her around to the front, and they hid just to frighten everybody because he was so pissed off at what they'd done. Yeah,
wild. Do you have the opportunity? Are you eligible or able to file any form of claim with your authorities about this, your story?
There is a possibility you can. There is some kind of very small payment you can get for being a victim over here in England. Despite there's no statute of limitations on my story, and I have reported it to law enforcement.
Okay, perfect. Do you have any respiratory issues from being in the engine room and cleaning the bilges? That's good. That's good news. That is good news. Is Neville still around?
He died in January.
I'm sorry to hear that. How are you doing since then?
No, okay. I have my moments, because I've picked up the mantle and running with his company.
Okay.
And I've had to create my own company because he was a sole trader. But yeah, so I'm doing that, and I miss him. He was a real powerhouse. He was unique. I miss him.
Yeah. I've never had the pleasure of meeting him, but I've only heard like absolutely fantastic stories about him throughout my life, and in connecting with various people outside. Yeah, he was definitely a beloved person in the free peoples. Let's put it that way. Amongst the free beings
that he worked. He sold whiskey for a living, and
he sold
I can't
what?
tell you how many. He sold whiskey for a living.
Wait, I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry. How are we not best friends? What whiskey? Is he an importer? What was happening? What whiskey?
Export. And that's what I'm doing now. Yeah.
Okay. I'm a whiskey gal. I have quite a collection of whiskey. Yes.
Single malts from family-run distilleries in Scotland. Yeah.
Okay. I'm coming to visit. We're getting some. It's yes. Okay. Wonderful. Deanna says that galley was where I scalded both legs and was told to put tea bags on it. It was 2nd and 3rd degree burns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's also the galley, can I say, was near the rooms where they put people in quarantine when they had a sickness of some sort, including sexually transmitted diseases like crabs. And so I had to feed these guys food. I wasn't allowed to go into the room. I had to feed them, put the tray of food by the door. They would then open the door, take the food, and then I would have to take it out. I had to wear gloves to wash and everything,
Yeah.
Nuts.
It's just, I mean, guys, there's no level of depravity or abuse that was skipped.
No.
It was like, check all the boxes, check every single one. It's just, it is wild to me. Deanna was also put in the chain locker. She said that was a special kind of abuse. Of course, it was reserved for the most naughty. And she said she couldn't stand up in there for her.
I can't remember if I could or not, but I was sitting anyway. So
right. You just decided to sit it out. And she said she also told part of her story on Peeling the Onion with Janice. And then yeah.
I wonder if she knew my husband.
She says that Neville saved her mother from the crow's nest.
Oh, right. So,
yes.
Oh, I know that story. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, and this is what I also try to tell people is that Scientology is the smallest town on the planet. Eventually, you will find someone who knows your mom, your dad, your uncle, your brother. Like we all had these weird interconnections where by the 90s, you literally had to check, like, are we cousins? Are we really? Because I don't know if we should be kind of like, because it started becoming like that. It was so wild. I mean, and my dad was a total character in Scientology. He, like your mom, got in the mission era, in the big mission era, after he came home from Vietnam a few years after your mom in the 70s in America. And because missions aren't really talked about right now, there's only a few left in the world. They're trying to revive that now. They're trying to literally, David Miscavige is like, we're going back to the beginning. We're going to run a Dianetics campaign. We're going to put ideal missions. There's no such thing as ideal anything anywhere out of L. Ron Hubbard's mouth ever in the history of his writings or speakings. Okay. But we're going to put these ideal missions out because they want to somehow, get those new people. They need to keep the dollars flowing because once you get to the highest level of 8, there's nothing else. And they have to figure out how to send you back to the beginning again. And some OTs who were original did the first, first go about on the Free Winds, the other ship that they have that's a disaster. They've gone back to the beginning several times now with all these golden ages and they still haven't made it back to where they already paid, millions of dollars to get to, which is
crazy.
insane. It's crazy to me that these people were totally fine on like starting over. Like that's kind of the new campaign I'm going to be doing while I'm protesting, because I saw the effects of it when I was at the Father's Day protest in Los Angeles, where that guy immediately did the like, where do you live? Like that kind of weird shit to me. And I was like, oh, you want to come to my house? I will cook for you. Do you like I'm a good cook? Like, come on over, and he was wearing his little, flag shirt, while I was walking around just so Scientology, right? And so I asked him, I said, let me ask you a sincere question. Like, why is it okay for David Miscavige to violate technical degrades and say that none of these things were valid that Lafayette Ronald did? Why is it okay for him to be a squirrel and not for anyone else? Like, why are you okay with that? And like, I could see like the blood draining from him. Because what do you say back to that as a Scientologist? Like, that's super inside baseball, that conversation. But when I'm speaking to somebody who's trapped in there, that's the argument. Like, why are you allowed, if you believe in this, if you believe that Lafayette Ronald made the road to freedom, he figured out, why is David Miscavige allowed to squirrel it? You're in a squirrel group. You are in the world's largest squirrel group right now that's pretending to be Scientology.
Yeah.
How is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Because you got to get these guys thinking. It's like when somebody asked Tori why she can't read what she wanted, and she was like, yeah, that's weird. Why can't I read anything I want? That's odd. That's a weird one. I'm going to think about that. And then she's out because of that one question that hit her. You can't, I mean, like you and I both know, if somebody had walked up to us when we were believers and been like, you're in a cult, right? It's a cult. We'd have been like, go fuck yourself. That's it. Hold my earrings. Fucking take me out. Right. Even though we were abused, we would have taken someone on in the parking lot. Like,
that's right.
You think I'm in a cult? I'll show you a fucking cult. Like that's the immediate reaction you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't tell people that, right? And telling them that it's child abuse, they don't recognize children. It's not real to them. Children are not real.
No.
Because children are able. Like, you look at all the promotions they have. Look at my so upstat theta potato being. Little Brittany is just on the road to freedom, right? Like that's where they're at. So you can't, that's not real to them. It's not, they don't exist in where we exist, right? Like, did you ever for 1 second look at your girls and be like, wow, you guys are just so able. Look at you. Like, I think you should have more responsibility. Like,
No.
Right?
No, absolutely not. And they were never, ever, ever going to go near it.
Were you like a helicopter mom? Were you like severely protective of them as a result? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they like, thank God I'm an adult now. Mom is wild. She didn't let nothing happen. She's just wilding.
They're not at all interested in any of this, me interviewing. They just don't want to know. They're just living their life and being very happy. They're not at all interested. Yeah.
See, you did it perfect then. Listen, as parents, I'm going to give you grace here because none of us give ourselves grace. We're all fucking it up. We're all doing it wrong, whether we were brought up in a cult or not. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. I mean, that's the truth of the matter.
That's right.
It is a perilous job. It is a perilous job, Listen, we're going to do a second part here because we have to get the other half of Danielle's story. I'm going to go eat some lunch before I pass out because it's now 2 p.m. here. Your final words for part 1 here. Danielle, take it away.
I think I would like to just say that my experience is one that I will continue to talk about until Scientology takes account and accountability for the crimes that they've perpetrated. And I am quite happy for anybody to go and believe whatever the hell they want to believe in, but the behavior has to change and they have to admit that what they did was wrong and they have to take accountability. And that's really important.
I couldn't concur more. Guys, we'll be back with part 2. Danielle and I are going to talk after this, after I end the show here and decide when part 2 will happen, and I'll get a thumbnail up and all that fun stuff. Until next time, everyone, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you to my mods, the best mods in the business, and I will see you all on the flippity dippity.